Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Welcome to the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Trish.
And this is our podcast. We talk about wrestling news and various topics from different promotions, primarily AEW, but also New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE, and topics from around the wrestling world. Whatever we find interesting, and we hope you will too. We are a proud member of the Social Suplex Podcast Network, and you can find our content on our podcast feed, the Social Suplex Podcast feed, as well as on Twitter, Blue Sky, and YouTube. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and rate our podcast. We also encourage you to check out the Social Suplex newsletter, which is published every month and available at socialsuplex.com, has crazy amounts of information and news from dozens of promotion across the world, as well as interesting features. And Trish, you got aggregated this month.
Just fucking read the newsletter.
Yeah, read the newsletter. Don't read the aggregation.
Don't read the shit aggregation. Yeah. Just read the newsletter.
Stuff gets slipped in there, you guys. Got to pay attention. You guys got to read the newsletter. Shit to do.
It's free.
It's fucking
like,
free.
It's full. It's info and it's free.
It's
like, just fucking read it.
Free, motherfuckers. Read the newsletter. We had a different, I liked the whole rolling, stuff coming out where it was like, you didn't put everything up. You kind of eat it out over a couple days. I like that a lot. I thought it worked well.
Yeah, we're just looking at different formats, really. So
things grow.
We'll see how we feel.
Evolve, change. We love that. That's what we're about at Social Suplex. Change.
Okay. Things are always working.
Things are always working. Today is Sunday, August 9th, and Trish and I are back, and we are going to talk about a bunch of shit today, friends. We missed you. Trish didn't miss you because she put out 2 podcasts. She put out a B-side and a C-side, motherfuckers. So you should please go and listen. First, she talks with our friend Frankie about the G1, which is really interesting, and Frankie is at boots on the ground journalism because dude is going to like all of these shows. It was a really interesting episode. They talked about a lot of fun stuff. Please go check it out. And then we had Mark from C4 Wrestling, so that was appropriate that it was the C show. Good job on that one. And they talked about life as an independent wrestling promoter, as well as their efforts to do charity shows for Stand Up for Cancer, which is a really important. The Canadian wrestling people do such good work with this charity. Please check it out. Please donate. Do what you can. Listen to our shows. Again, free content. Sorry, you have to listen to an ad in the middle of it. Just hit skip 30 seconds and you'll be fine. Okay. We're going to kick things off today with WWE's Summerslam.
This is how this is going to go today, right? You miss like a week, and now you're just so like, bad.
Don't get good at your job, friends. Don't get good at your job. They give you more work. They don't give you less work if you get good at your job. They give you more work. It's not good. But we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna talk about fucking SummerSlam because you know that I love to watch a CM Punk match, especially one that gets rated really highly by Dave Meltzer, and then I watch it and say, "What the fuck was that?" And so that's what we're going to talk about, friends, today. What the fuck was that? But we're going to start off with SummerSlam, which was another 2-night situation, which, again, this week after let's put it this way, I don't think anybody received SummerSlam enthusiastically. Am I wrong? Like, there were not great reviews. Suit Williams has pretty much abandoned WWE entirely because of this show.
I don't know.
Other people were like, this sucked. I
don't know. I think there's a real split on this one, right? So I've been talking to people this week, like especially where I work, who just watched WWE, and for them, they were quite well received. Like, I think, but I guess it depends what you want out of something, doesn't it? And I think there's a heavy emphasis on if you like what they didn't like the main events, then you're willing to hand wave a lot of things, and whether you like that or not is Definitely depends how you see pro wrestling. But I don't think it's unilateral in that sense. I do think there were plenty of people that did like it, but it would be the people that like that style of wrestling more, or invested in that, or are willing to, they see something else in it. We can talk all the way through it, but yeah, I kind of, I'm not going to say it wasn't like completely panned universally.
No, that's fair. I guess my limited spaces. I will say that the one space where, so I have two spaces. I have a guy at work who knows that I'm into wrestling, but he thinks wrestling means WWE. So he just came up to me in the lunch. He came up to me in the cafeteria the other day and wanted to discuss Nick Aldis. And I was like, he is one of the penises. I can't remember which one. I think he's the one that had the match with Gunther. Yes, he is. He's younger than everybody in the main event scene. And I was like, yeah. And then I said, he said something about Oasis, and I was like, isn't that just a cheap knockoff of Nigel McGuinness? And then he wandered away to the salad bar, and we never spoke about it again. Then there's another message board that I frequent that a lot of those people are just not as interested in the show as they were at one time. Although one guy had an interesting comment, which is he's like, well, sometimes I fast forward through the wrestling matches when I don't have a lot of time. And I was like, that just says WWE fandom of wrestling right there. Like the matches are the thing you can skip. But then I watch the WWE matches and I'm like, I'd skip these too. They're really, there's not a lot there. Even the ones that everybody's like, oh my God, this was incredible. I'm like, this is your incredible match. Like, yeah, all right. We'll get into it with the specifics, but they didn't have a lot of people at this show, Trish. That was the thing that came out of this. They also didn't announce attendance, which is maybe, I don't want to say a first for WB, because I'm sure they've done shows where they haven't announced attendance before, but it is unusual that they had a 2-night show like this in a stadium and didn't do our attendance tonight is whatever.
I believe it is the first. I believe it's the first time they've not given a, whether worked or not, figure for attendance for a stadium show. Yeah.
All right, it makes me feel good that I got that correct, even when well, I think there was a good point that was brought up that they didn't want to do that because it's likely that they did not hit 40K either night. And even with AEW, we've talked about the issues with filling Wembley Stadium for a third time. They are likely to pass 40K, and so they didn't want to put themselves in competition with AEW in any way. So, which makes sense. For at least for that, they want AEW to be in competition with NXT and TNA and all that other fun shit. But it certainly looked, there were they did a good job of filming it so that it hid a lot of the tarped off spots, and it had one of those enormous setups with huge screens. But there were some behind the scenes shots where you could see, much like the stain on Punk's trunks, you could see the tarped off sections of the stadium at times. It was pretty, I'm still curious. I'd love to be a fly on a wall in some of these ESPN plus meeting rooms where they talk about like their expectations for WWE and whether they've been met, exceeded. I had to sit through a horrifying segment. I was stuck someplace with ESPN on, and I had to watch Seth Rollins talk about SummerSlam and then also talk about football as if one wasn't bad enough. And he was in his serious face and he had a suit on and everything. So like they were taking it seriously. But it doesn't seem
10 minutes in and you're abusing Seth Rollins.
Isn't that what he's there for though? Like, isn't that his job? He's there to eat the pin and be the guy, the whipping boy. Like, he's the WWE whipping boy. Let's face it. Am I wrong? I'm like, of that group, he's that guy.
He's the gatekeeper to the main event.
Yeah.
Sure.
We went through his cage match a couple shows ago. Like, he's the one who loses. Yeah. He lost it on SummerSlam. And they'll trot him out for ESPN. So what do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about Punk and Cody first? Because that was the one I watched. I did not watch this whole show. Let's be realistic. I watched the two main events. I watched Punk versus Cody, and I watched Seth versus Roman.
Okay, well, maybe we talk about them first, and I can talk about some stuff on the rest of the shows, and then we'll just talk about a couple of the business lines and a couple of the other things that happened.
I love that. We're so well prepared.
So, we're we're like Dave and Brian ringing down bullet points right now.
Oh shit.
I'm like, I was going to talk about something else, and you're like, no, we need to talk about Punk and Cody. I was like, what is this? Nakajima Miyahara all over again.
3 people will understand that reference.
I don't care. It's still funny.
It's still fucking hilarious. Sorry. One of those people is me and I'm laughing. FTR. You will not talk about FTR. Oh my god.
They're on a break. We're on a break for FTR. No. Yeah. Right. Punk and let's start.
Before we do that, can we get into a very public Twitter fight where we quote each other's tweets and yell at each other?
I don't do Twitter anymore.
I know.
Told me no.
We'll do it on Blue Sky then.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, we'll have a fight about something. It'll be a work shoot, Trish.
We can fight over Seth and Roman in a minute because I think we're going to. So
let's fucking go.
Let's go. Right. Punk and Cody. Go on. Floor is
Trish,
yours.
this was incredible. It was very sophisticated. They worked a limb. Okay. I know. They faked you out because at first you thought they were going to work Cody's arm and that was going to be the story of the match. No, they worked Punk's leg. And so the question was, could he do the GTS? And he could, according to them, but according to me, I don't think his knee hit anywhere near anyone's face. Like, it's supposed to hit the face, right? His knee kept hitting like someone in the upper chest / shoulder region. But it is supposed to hit his face. Am I insane? I'm not. Yeah.
Yes.
It didn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. This was fine. I will give Cody Rhodes credit. He got Punk moving faster and more aggressively in the first few minutes of the match than I've seen Punk in any other of his matches. Not Gunther. And again, I have my limited, not Gunther, not Cena, not Roman Reigns. He was definitely moving a little bit faster. It just went on for so fucking long. Like, I just feel like when I watch these WWE matches, I'm like, these things could be cut in half. Neither one of these guys had anything to say or do with each other that I thought was particularly interesting. And like, Punk kept botching moves. Like, a bunch of stuff wasn't landing. And like at one point, Cody threw him into the steps and they were like, he hit the steps. And I'm like, he didn't. And then at another point, he did that terrible moonsault that everybody was like, it's supposed to be terrible. And I'm like, is it though? Like, I don't know. This was fine, but like way too long and just not that great. Like, I think my notes are like, they worked a leg, Randy Orton, yawn. Like... The big question was, did Punk shit himself? And let's be honest, I don't think he shit himself realistically. I don't think he did. But I want to believe that he did because that's funnier. So in my heart of hearts, I'm like, I know he didn't, but if anybody asks, he absolutely shit himself. I'm not a good person, friends. This is the kind of sophisticated analysis you come to this podcast for. What did you think of this? Did you like this? Did you think it was good?
I thought it was shocking. You can think I have whatever biases I want. I thought it was shocking. I thought they were trying to do something they didn't have the ability to do.
No, well, that's Punk's entire career. Also, like,
sure,
yeah. But still.
I thought some of the things they were trying to execute just looked horrendous. Like it looked sloppy. It just looked tired. It looked like they had the idea of what they were doing, but neither had the capability to do it. So I just did not think it looked well worked to begin with. If you care about how things look and the transitions and all that sort of stuff,
right?
I'm just watching it going, what are you doing? Like, it looks choreographed in the worst way.
Yes.
And I just didn't think much of it at all. I didn't think it built. I think they struggled with the fact the crowd was completely fucking dead for the first, 3/4 of it.
The crowd was more behind Punk. Like, I'll give him credit. Yes. The crowd was much more behind Punk. They were, like, Cody was getting booed even in his, like, introduction. Like, he has the crowd behind him, and I will give him credit for that, absolutely. But they were not, like, oh my God, this is a match of the century.
No, and you can see they worked knowing that would happen because Cody's been on this kind of precipice of being booed heavily on shows, or indeed being booed heavily on shows for quite some time now, probably a year and a half, or maybe, especially with big shows. So they work to that, and that's why you do the Punk's, Punk's the guy with the injury despite being like the champion, right? But I just felt it was slow, it was plodding, it did nothing to raise the crowd in a way that would do that. And you could see it from the start. They should have adapted from the start because Punk comes out and they do that thing where he does the Goldberg walk now, right? And they want him to go CM Punk, CM Punk.
Yeah.
And it's and it's just silence. And then he eventually gets to the stage and then you get the light chant, but it's not what they obviously wanted when you do that long walk. And then they just did nothing to kind of get him into it. And it's all this talk about, they wanted to do this, they wanted to do that, but it's okay, but really you want to do something that fits with where you are, your location, story, and everything like that. It should be about what you do between your two characters rather than doing some sort of 80s fucking tribute match to me. That's the way I see it. you can take things from that era and you can put them into a match, but you try and tell your story rather than somebody else's on a replicant basis, which is definitely something that we've labelled at Punk and other people have labelled at Punk, and Cody to an extent can be very much like that as well. But I just felt it slow, it was plodding. I thought the defenses of the crooked moonsault thing, when if he intended to do that moonsault like he did, right, then he would not have made a pinfall attempt. And Cody even fucking noticed, because he starts sitting up going, well, he didn't fucking get me, so like,
we're not doing this. Touch him.
No, and then he does the pinfall attempt anyway. So don't tell me he tried to do that shit deliberately, because then he then did a pinfall attempt, alright? Like, I'm not fucking blind. I might be dumb, but I'm not fucking blind. So
it's one of those things where I'm like, if the moonsault is bad, fine, whatever. Everybody, like, but like, you have to land on the guy, and he didn't land on the guy, so the move didn't work.
No, he just looked stupid.
Yes.
And it was just like, yep, okay. And then like the dive over the top onto the table, where he obviously realizes he can't get to wherever he's supposed to get to or whatever he was supposed to land on. You can see him like panicking in midair. And then he tries to land on his feet, and it's like he goes, oh shit, if I land on my feet, I can risk breaking my ankles. So he just kind of collapses down in a weird way. It's kind of like if you go skiing and you forget how to stop, and you just kind of like throw yourself, and he just bounces off, and you're just like, okay, this needs to end now.
Well, and the prep for that move also took forever. There was another one where he did an elbow, and he just took forever to get up the ropes, and then he milked the crowd, and then he finally, and Cody is laying there the whole time, and I'm like, okay, well, Cody's gonna like slip out of this or move or counter it in some way, because he's been on the fucking mat for God knows how long, and no, he didn't. Mm-hmm. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like, like I said,
it's happening to Cody though, don't it? Because it happened at like WrestleMania last year. How long did he wait for the Travis Scott thing? He was just like,
just lay there. Just lay there.
Just laying there dying. Like, I have to lay here. He must have been thinking, like, what the fuck is my life?
Why am I doing this? Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It just, and maybe I'm missing something because I didn't watch the build for this, like, which, by all accounts wasn't good. But like, again, what story, other than the limb work, what story were they telling in this match? They weren't. Like, I didn't get a sense that there was anything here that I was supposed to care about, right? And
the thing is, it doesn't even matter though, does it? Because they were going to always do the cheap finish.
Yes.
So you don't get that finish. You don't get a story that you're building to. Because at the end of the day, you did the cheap finish. The biggest pop of the match was not for something in the match. It was for Randy Orton, the heel, attacking a babyface so another babyface could keep their belt. And winking in the process.
Oh, the wink was amazing. Wink. The wink was amazing. At least he like got that across on screen. Like, if that's like your most important moment in the match, he nailed it, but it was still ridiculous. Yeah. And he still looks like fucking Shrek. I'm sorry.
But yeah, like, you can't do it, like, don't tell me what your story is and then just do the cheap finish. It's the same thing that we said about Dynasty with like the MJF Kenny Omega match. You do like 35 minutes and then do a shitty cheap finish. It's like, it feels worthless to me. It's the same with this. This went far too long for a cheap finish match.
The funny part
about this, get anything out of it.
The funny part about this was I didn't watch this last weekend. I didn't watch it until this weekend, and I had no idea who won. Like, and at no point, I had no idea who won until after. And like, I didn't avoid spoilers. I was like, oh, Cody wins, right? And then I'm like, I guess Punk won. Like, it didn't register to me. It didn't seem to come across. Like, there was no excitement for it. Like, nothing. Like, that's the part that I found to me interesting, because I almost, sure, I've missed matches and I'll miss shows, but you always know who wins. In this case, it was like there was no discussion of it. I was like, Jesus Christ, these guys are dead.
I think that's in quite an interesting point when you look at both of the main events and the third main event, because obviously this was the third main event because it didn't go on last, and Punk's made a very big deal of telling as many people as possible how unhappy he was about that.
Oh yeah.
As you'd expect. But like, yeah, this was like the third main event, but you think about it going in, like, if you told somebody, I don't know, 12 months ago, maybe 18 months ago, depending how you feel about Cody in the last 18 months, if you told someone that you would have a weekend of events that had CM Punk and Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, the original Night 2 main event for this year's WrestleMania, and you told them that there was not really a massive amount of interest, it didn't feel hot in any way,
nope.
You'd probably think that was insane, right? Because that's two of the biggest matches that they could do at this point, you'd think, with their current lineup and the way they kind of stranglehold in the main event that a lot of these guys have got. And we never really felt that. We've not felt that before. We've not felt that after. And that feels so strange. So like, that's the top thing you can put on, and you've held off in a way on a lot of those matches until now. And does it feel special? Not got that sense from anybody. Yeah, you're right. So very strange kind of thing. But yeah, so that one was the semi-main event of night one, because the main event of night one was Oba Femi and Brock Lesnar in a Hell in a Cell match.
Yep.
So this one was quite interesting because, unfortunately, I think there's two stories to this one, right? So I think the first story is that if you want to just look at the match itself, it's nothing. Like, it's just a standard Lesnar thing, you know, finisher, 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 finisher. They pull the wood up, you know, Femi manages to kick out of after he's taken move onto the wood, and then he's supposed to, you know, put Lesnar down onto the wood and win that way, but he doesn't. So he just goes onto the mat. So it's like a real flat finish. And like the crowd were more lively for that one than they were for Punk and Cody, but not by a massive deal. And then what you had out of it, so you had this very bland kind of 8-minute match where I think I felt like it messed up the dynamics a little bit, because you had like the full Paul Heyman introduction of Lesnar emphasizing he's from Minnesota, and it's like, which guy do we want to get over here? Right. You know? And then you do the close thing, and like Lesnar's endorsing him, and he's the next big thing, and people are like, oh, you know, it's been so long since somebody endorsed someone in this way, and it's like, I'll ask you first and foremost, you know, do you think that this was some big Lesnar endorsement of Oba Femi that's going to power him to the next level? Okay,
no.
I did.
It felt like John Cena being excited about Austin Theory. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't, I don't know. Hey, I'd love to be wrong about this. I'd love for the WWE to actually push somebody young, to actually make a new star. I appreciate that, you know, I don't get the impression that this is actually going to happen, and I'll eat my hat if I'm wrong. I'm happy to be like, my God, I was wrong about this. You guys know I'll admit that. But it certainly didn't seem to me like this was this full-throated endorsement. And Lesnar going on what fucking Pat McAfee, was it? Or which show? Steven, one of those horrible shows, to be like, I'm retired now. Like, what? Like, what?
Of course he's not. We haven't promoted him as a retirement match. He's not retired.
But if you were
even if we did, he's still not retired.
If he was really retired and you were really putting him over, wouldn't his retirement be part of this match then? Like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, but then it all just becomes about him, and it is all about him. So as much as it should be about Oba Femi, like, all the talk coming out of it again is about Lesnar, same as WrestleMania.
Right. I don't know. I didn't watch this. I'm sure. Like,
you didn't miss anything.
No.
Honestly, it's just a very, very basic match. And look, you can't say completely that they've not killed Oba Femi or anything like that. He's definitely the hottest person that they have coming through a younger age that feels like they really could be something in those main events. There could be something to him. You've now got a situation where you need to put him over after, and all the talk is about Roman at WrestleMania. Roman Reigns was out doing media prior to SummerSlam, pretty much burying him, which was quite interesting. So we'll see how that goes, because I wouldn't guarantee that. I don't think you can right now guarantee that he would come out of a WrestleMania match with Roman Reigns with the belt. Like, I wouldn't go in on it. I wouldn't bet on it any money, you know. But what was interesting about it to me, and this is, am I being a cynic here? You can tell me, right? When I read the responses to all this and all the, he's endorsed Femi as the next big thing, I could not move past the fact that, to me, it feels like this is just the last thing in babyface in Brock Lesnar since he came back last August at SummerSlam.
No.
Yeah. So he came back a year ago, and obviously we saw the reactions. He came back whilst the Grant case was still ongoing, and in terms of before it moved to arbitration, very recently. And we saw the reactions to it. We saw kind of the reactions between there and WrestlePalooza. They did the Cena thing, and it was a big heel. And now, because of what they did at WrestleMania and on the way up to here, he's now the big baby face, right? They're treating him as a big baby face.
Yes.
There's no talk about anything else. It's just about, he's potentially retired, and look what he did for Oba Femi. And you see the Triple H interview in the week before, it was like, he's a mentor to Oba Femi, and breaking kayfabe, which he then complained about other people breaking kayfabe and not believing in stories. But, can't keep up with which way it goes here. And to go with that, you also had Paul Levesque doing his first press conference, quote unquote, only on a Saturday night, straight after that. Obviously, very curated, and you wouldn't have anyone else in the room anyway, because no one would have flown in to go to a press conference because it wasn't advertised. And it all just, I can't shift that feeling. I can't shift that feeling that as much as it's like, oh, we want to get Oba Femi over and all that kind of thing, but there's a real undertone here of we've managed to babyface this guy after where he came back last year, and that feels like something that they feel like they've achieved with, and it means that the conversations are completely different now. I can't shift that feeling. And I think that Levesque doing the press conferences at the same time just kind of reinforced that to me. It was like, as soon as that case went to arbitration, he's back out there.
Yeah.
You know?
It makes sense.
Just, yeah.
I mean, it certainly is something that jumps out at you. And I mean, I don't know. I think they're just so gross about this stuff, and like they're so obvious about it, and like you know, they don't want you. The whole like he's here for the kids thing is like one of the easiest tells, I think, for a lot of these older wrestlers. Just automatically, you're like, what's the angle here? Like, come on. But I don't know. It's you'd like to see Brock. I'd love to see Brock Lesnar go away and never be back again, but it's not going to happen. I'm sure he'll be back for Saudi.
No, he'll be back.
Yeah, if not anything else, because I don't think they have any other part-time older guys that they can bring back anymore, right? If Cena's gone, he's just going to show up to do, you know, media type appearances and MCs and stuff like that. Like,
announce tournaments that still don't have any details of because Club WWE wasn't enough of a big announcement. Yeah.
So like, but they have to have somebody for this kind of stuff, and I feel like Lesnar's the guy, right?
Yeah, they like having someone in that spot,
right?
For sure.
Right.
And yeah,
and it's not going to be radically different than what he's been doing. He's just not, you know, he's not around, and he shows up periodically, and you know,
like he comes in, he does a 7-minute match,
right?
You know, finisher, done. That's it.
Right.
I either open or I close. And I know there's been a lot of people saying like he didn't go after like the close on this one, and it was another decision and whatever.
Blah, blah, blah.
But he is always open and closed. Like he has been that way for a long, long time now. So it's what it is. But yeah, but that was actually like the bigger audience night for SummerSlam this year. So like we haven't got final numbers from WrestleTix yet, but the last estimate that was at 36,258, and then the Sunday was at 34,225. It's unusual because normally obviously the second night is the bigger of the two. It's hard to judge though because also both nights were, you know, pretty heavily papered and reduced down. You know, they were selling tickets for this show for $25, which is
crazy.
It's a third of the lowest price that they had per ticket at, you know, on general sale. And it's the lowest price for any like WWE stadium show in the US or Canada since TKO took over. So I thought that was quite interesting because if the whole idea is to get people in for 2 nights and stay in hotels and that sort of thing, that doesn't seem to reflect that. That seems to reflect kind of more local kind of sales. And I guess that's not really what they're after. So it'd be quite interesting to see if, you know, we've not seen anything yet, but there wasn't really any statements in the TKO kind of Q2 kind of numbers around kind of impact on Minneapolis. Maybe it's too early. We've not seen anything from the city yet or from the tourist board, and we've not seen anything in regards of, you know, any figures from them. They didn't announce any figures corporately either. So that's quite interesting in itself. And what got me as well is when you look at like the Royal Rumble, that is not being packaged by itself to Arizona. It's part of a deal for TKO between that and the UFC and for boxing as well. So it makes me wonder whether these secondary events, they now feel the need to package them with other things to make them worthwhile under this kind of side fee thing. I guess it's just something to keep an eye on, really, in terms of like that. I know next year's going, is it 2029 going to Indianapolis? Or is it 2020? Oh my God.
I mean, that's what they say now, but who the
fuck
knows?
Yeah, they say lots of things. They said New Orleans was getting a WrestleMania, right?
They still haven't gotten even a pay-per-view.
No. They've got their Money in the Bank in October now, which was the one that was originally scheduled to go against All In and then never went on sale and so forth. So we'll see. But it's kind of an interesting one that there's been kind of no publicity for it. And there's no publicity from ESPN either, which is the running gag, but it's true. And they ran ESPN Plus only, which was quite an interesting decision. So you didn't think it was valuable enough on ESPN TV, or you didn't think that putting the hour on ESPN TV was enough to just kind of determine additional subscribers for ESPN Plus. So it's either one or the other in that aspect. So just whichever one it is. But it's an interesting move. It's, again, these are kind of things to keep an eye on because we see what happened with kind of the like Saturday night's main event and going just to Peacock and that sort of thing. So anything changes like that are always worth kind of noting it down. But yeah, so The night 2 main event was your 13 years in the making, 14 years in the making. Oh, fuck, I'm getting old. Oh my God.
This is your
Main
Shield
event.
podcast with your Shield podcasters talking about your Shield main event where people use Shield chairs and Shield power bombs and Shield finishers. Jesus Christ. I don't know if you know this, Trish, but Roman and Seth were in the Shield.
Well, the problem was I was a Shield podcaster, I guess. I was into the Shield.
Who wasn't into the Shield? Come on.
I had an Argos guy come up to me once, and he stuck his fist out of the door, and I just looked at him, and he was pointing to mine. I had like a Shield hoodie on. I was like, "Oh yeah, shit, cool." Yeah. So yeah, second night main event: Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins playing off 13 years of history, going back to the Shield chair shot that shook the world. When Seth Rollins laid out only Roman Reigns in this telling of a
Yes,
story.
no one else was there.
No one else was
there.
There was an incredible bit in the commentary of when they were coming down to the ring where they were like, I think Michael Cole goes, these guys have been the pioneers for wrestling in this era, and they're like, and they never left WWE to do it. I just started pissing myself. I was like, could you sound more angry?
Oh, Jesus.
Oh my. But he comes down and the other bit on that commentary, sorry, I just want to finish this bit, but the other bit on the commentary is he comes down in the white gear with like the colours on and stuff. And Michael Cole's like, he's changed from the black gear to the white because he's given up on revenge. And it's like, the whole point if you're going to do gear changes and make it mean something is don't fucking explain it on commentary. If you need to explain it, it's not worth doing. Like, oh my God.
Commentary for this was especially, like both nights it was bad, but for this one it was especially bad because there was a lot of stuff that should have been subtext or just allowed to be interpreted that never got there because, like, who's the British one? Wade Barrett?
Yes.
He's way worse. I mean, they're both bad, but he's horrifyingly bad, where he was like literally narrating every fucking thing he was seeing. And I was like, could you let a moment breathe? Like, they would talk to each other in the ring and he would be like, he just told him he's number 2. And you're just like, dude, we know, we heard it. Number 2 is bad. Like, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, I don't know. This match was also not good. It was better than Cody and Punk, but for all that they kept trying to tell me that these guys hated each other and this was like, such huge emotional match, it didn't feel like that in the slightest. I never got the impression that these guys actually had like a thing. They never felt like they actually were trying to hurt each other. Like, I don't know. I could just, some of it with wrestling is you have to have that fourth wall, which I guess I don't have because I'm not as invested in this. But at the same time, I was like, all I could focus on was the moves that Seth couldn't do that Roman was helping him get through, right? And the number of times that I was like, oh, they're talking to each other here. Like, there was a point where Seth was trying to lift Roman up, where like Roman had him in a cradle, and he was,
when Roman did the little jump, jumps, and they should have moved the camera up to not show his legs as he's hooking himself up.
And then he still couldn't do it, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's, I literally was like, oh God, this guy's knee's gonna explode again. What are we doing here? But it was just like, they went into the crowd for like 40 minutes for no reason. They were off onto the side.
The referee is being very lenient here. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was just like, but it was just like, it just went on forever. It just felt like a series of disconnected moves. Like, oh, we did each other's finishes, and oh, here's the chair. And you know what I mean? Like, I never felt like anything meant anything. It just felt like a choreographed version of a fight. And I think that's part of it with WWE is like, you never get this, you never lose. I never lose. And let me say I never lose that sense of disbelief where I'm like, oh my God, these guys want to beat the shit out of each other. Right. And like, I don't know. If this is your thing and you really like this and you thought this was good, then I guess I'm glad. But it was better worked in some ways than Punk and Cody because like both of these guys are capable of wrestling. Like whatever you say, like they are capable of basically doing some of the moves, So like that was fine. But emotionally, this just did nothing for me. And the announcers screaming in the background because I was like trying to think to myself, like in those moments where they talk to each other, right? Like I'm not totally opposed to this. I think that you should be able to tell a story in the ring with the moves and action in the ring that don't require you stopping the action so you can have a conversation. That doesn't mean that I don't think that I'm, that I'm not somebody who believes in like nevers. If that's something you think is beneficial, you think you can get to that and it will work for you, then fine. But like, again, you have these guys talking to each other in the ring and supposedly having this deep emotional conversation about their hatred for each other that's born out of love and blah, 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 blah. And then you've got fucking Wade Barrett and Michael Cole screaming in the background 2 seconds after it happens. It doesn't work. It requires, like, if it's going to work, and I don't think it is, but on the off chance that you can get it to work, it requires like you have to lose some of those wrestling tropes like announcers and other shit. And if you're not going to do that, then why bother? Because it's just stupid. Like, it just comes across as dumb.
So I have different feelings on this match.
Okay,
and lots of different ones.
I like
kind of like, I'll try and lay I made a mistake. So I watched this match the first time and it was kind of on the background, so I didn't really watch it. So I actually went back and watched it, but I made a mistake of watching it after I watched the Yota Tsuji Oleg Bolton match, and the problem was is that yeah, thank you. We've already established this. You want to be? We did this thing. Is this our tweet? We're gonna have this is a tweet argument. I told you it's coming. On Blue Sky because we don't tweet.
Yes, that's right.
Don't Blue Sky either. We don't do social media anymore. Can't be trusted. No. I cannot be trusted. No. But no, so I thought they were trying to do a very similar thing to the story that Oleg and Tsuji did, in terms of you had someone who was completely overconfident and then you had somebody who would have to fight from beneath with the counters, right? And it was weird because the dynamic coming in is all mixed up. So you have this idea of Roman has never beaten Seth, apart from the time he has beaten Seth, but it wasn't important enough, so we pretend that didn't happen, right? So we're using that story. So in a way, the champion is kind of the underdog that needs to prove. But the way the match is set up is like Seth is goading Roman into losing like his concentration, but then Roman is the one with the overconfidence. And by like at least a couple minutes in, like Roman is the antagonist in the first part. Like,
yeah, I agree with that.
The crowd, as it goes on, like the crowd are actually getting more behind Seth. In fact, there was about more support for Seth than I thought there would be. When you think about the build and how weak like his promo side is, and even in the build up, they show like the videos and stuff, and they're like, literally, it's like Roman is like the guy from this era and all this stuff, and I'm like, what the fucking point is the point of this match then? Like, what are we doing? But it was like, that's how they build it up. And then there was a spot where they did the spear running spot into the power bomb, the first shield bomb. From Seth, and the problem is that's so close to like one of the spots out of the Oleg Tsuji match that it was, but that was done so much more like fast and crisp and looked so much more impressive. I was like, I should have watched that match afterwards because I was like, oh my god, I can't unsee it now. But yeah, they did the long crowd brawling thing where I think they thought they'd bring the crowd up, and it was interesting because they actually started quite high with the crowd. I felt the crowd was much stronger on the, arguably, even though it was like a weaker number, it was much stronger and more invested on the second night than it was on the first. And they seemed to be quite invested at the start, and then it was like it kind of eked off when they went into the crowd, and they really didn't do anything in the crowd.
No.
And it kind of surprised me because I thought back about the last time that they wrestled was in the Triple Threat at WrestleMania last year with CM Punk. And one of the things I remember about that match was like some of the pacing. It was very quick. Roman Reigns was like, I think that's the fastest I've seen him work in years. He was like just jumping about all over the place. So I kind of expected this match, being that it was these two guys, and you know, for all of Seth's promo issues, that naturally make him become more heel when in ring he's much better as a babyface. Like, he's normally very, very quick and swift, and everything kind of, it has a feel to it. He's very good at connectivity within the kind of WWE style. And this just didn't have that at the start. So it was very, very slow and plodding when they went outside, and they didn't really do much outside, and they come back in, and then then obviously they get the crowd into it when they start doing the shield bombs, which is, you know, one man power bomb is now a shield bomb, by the way, like, even though it was,
which is crazy,
multiple men, but whatever. So they do the 2 table spots, and then they go back in. And then they start doing like the exchange of finishes. And they do like there's a striking exchange, right? And the striking exchange, to be fair to like, how did this play to the crowd? Like, the crowd is really into that striking exchange.
Yes,
it's like roaring. Yes. It's like boom, boom, boom. And then they do like a few more finishes and stuff. And then the ref bump. And at that point, when they start yapping to each other, like, I think that's when they missed the peak. The peak was actually just before then. That's when the crowd were really into it, because they start doing all the yapping, and then they do more finishes, and then they do more yapping, and they do more finishes, and they do more yapping. And believe you me, it's 3 bits of yapping. I wrote it down.
No, it was 3. Yes, agreed.
Yeah, there was like 3 big bits of yapping. And, you know, that's part of this Roman Reigns kind of thing now, and this style. And we've seen, you know, bits of that style kind of emulate into other things. We've seen some of it with like the Death Riders and Ospreay and stuff this year. Unfortunately, that style was kind of bled into other things. And it's like, okay, fine. But you lost the crowd with it, because then when they went to do like the Smoz style striking, you know, when they go in, they're like rah, 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 rah.
Yep.
And the crowd, and they're expecting the crowd to be like woo, and there's like nothing, and they end up having to go back to like the slow strikes to kind of get them back in, and then it's not too long to get the finish. But it was kind of interesting, because the idea was, once you got to that point, it was like, oh, we're equals, because we did the Shield chair spot. And, you know, like Seth hesitated, and then, which it never actually looked like he hesitated. It looked like he just stopped and got smacked in the face. Quite funny.
Yes.
And then obviously Roman goes, no, I'm not going to do it, even though he's been like the antagonist for most. So then it's like, oh, they're both baby faces now, and that's supposed to be a big finish to then allow like, oh, Roman gets the win. And it's all a respect spot, and then we stick our fists out and all that stuff, and we do, you know, a couple of Dean Ambrose moves and that sort of thing, so we can like, oh, you know, we played homage to Dean Ambrose. And it's like, to be fair, I have less problem with that, because like Moxie does the curb stomp like all the fucking time, so whatever. But it was like, yeah, I just felt like it missed its peak by about 5-10 minutes. I can see why it appealed to people there. I can see like some things. Was I affected by a lot of the callbacks? Not really, because they were too like, it was too in your face. I think that's the thing about it. I thought about it because I thought, you know, I was so invested in I loved watching the Shield come through, because if you were watching WWE around that time, like 2011, 2010, a lot of the time it just felt boring. You know, and that's why I think part of like the Summer of Punk stuff kind of blew up so much. But the Shield coming in at the end of that year and having these incredible trios matches with the likes of like the Wyatt family and that sort of thing, it was so refreshing, because it was different. And this was a product that had felt like so bland and boring for so many years. It just didn't feel like invigorating. And all of a sudden it was like, what the fuck's this? Like we've got something completely different. These completely different characters. They didn't feel like they were part of the mold of like what you expected the cookie cutter WWE guys to look like, which were very much the big kind of musclehead sort of thing. You know, they had chemistry between them, which is, you know, responsible for most of their female followings, I would say, for all 3 men. Over the last, pretty much like the chemistry between them was like, yeah, that's the growth. And when people want to talk about, it's so funny, like people talk about the Elite like it's the only time that anyone's ever talked about like men's wrestling like this, and it's so funny. It was just like, were you around for the Shield, or did you just ignore that? Did you just pretend everyone loved CM Punk and didn't talk about anyone else? I don't know, but it's like, it's so funny.
It is.
But yeah, so there was a real interest in that kind of interplay. And I think that this match, you know, 5-6 years ago, was something that a lot of people wanted to see. They wanted to see a big program between Roman and Seth, and, you know, especially before Seth, maybe even before then, you know, before Seth had all the injuries. And I guess once Roman became like the OTC thing, you thought, actually, yeah, you do want to see that. And we've had times where Seth has been, you know, in a bigger position than what he is now, where you thought that would be really interesting. I guess after he had like the summer programs with Cody Rhodes, and he went to that other program with like Logan Paul. Was it Logan Paul? Yeah, I think it was.
I think so.
And yeah, but he was actually like, for who he's working with, but he felt like he was like at the top of his kind of feeling and that sort of thing himself. And I don't think we have the same Seth Rollins in 2026 that you even saw then. So there was something missing there. I think the way the character dynamics didn't really work, because people just want to cheer Roman. Obviously, he's playing this half tweener thing. We know how well that goes these days. I think babyface is being way too overused this year. Way too overused. And I would put that at some points, when you look at certain places, stagnation. Part of it is not having clear people to root for, and baby faces that people want to cheer consistently, or giving the opportunity to cheer them consistently. So I think that's part of it as well. But I didn't think it was a bad match. I thought it overstayed its welcome. I thought it started slower, and then it did pick up pace. I did think it was better work than Punk Cody.
Yes.
I can see why people liked it with the callbacks and that sort of thing, or they like the kind of, there was a more emotion to it, I felt like, than any other match on these 2 shows. But at the same time, it's a match for me as a fan of someone like who watched them, you know, come through from the start in OVW, and not FCW, FCW. I am losing my fucking mind today. But watch them on Independence in terms of Rollins and and Moxley, and to see Reigns come through in FCW and to see them come up, and I guess there was a part of me that wanted to be invested in it because of the attachment to that period of time. And I never really felt that connectivity. Even I've watched all the promos. I'll be honest, I've watched all the promos on this because I wanted to see like, what would I do with this? Will this actually feel like something? Is this something like that I would even feel a connection to? Being that I was connected to that part of WWE then, and I don't think I ever got there with that. So yeah, I can't deal with all the talking stuff. I can't deal with the stopping the match. And it just took so much momentum out of it. It's like, you're starting to build this thing up now. And then you just took all the momentum out and then we have to do it. The chair stuff really annoyed me because it was just like, we have to make this so unsubtle. It's not like a head nod or anything like that. No. We have to break it out for 5 whole minutes where we have to knock the referee down and he's going to stand there with the chair. And then he's going to stand there with the chair. And there was no, like, the crowd should have been really kind of big for those moments. And it just felt, like, flatter than some of the other stuff they did. And I didn't know if that's because people expect the boom, 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 kind of finisher, WWE style that has kind of gotten worse and worse over the last few years. Or it was because, like, it just felt so kind of played out. I can let people decide that. But I didn't hate it.
They don't trust their audience at all, which is a big... I do think that hurts them in some of these big matches where it's like, let them trust their audience, and yet they don't. And so you don't get that sense of subtlety or that moment to let it breathe because, like I said before, you've got the announcer screaming all the shit that, oh yeah, we know about this. Wade Barrett told us. So
yeah,
we got a question about this. Do you want to do that now or do you want to push that back a little bit?
I'll just mention a couple other things on the show, and then we can do Matt's question, and then we'll go from there. Because I want you to read the note that you wrote under the next section. Because I read it, and I was like, yeah.
We got one. There's another question above that too from the board.
Oh yeah. Okay, I should answer that one first, actually, shouldn't we? Because that's related to this.
That's what I meant. See.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm reading down. I'm
just jumping ahead, girl. You're jumping
ahead. Too many notes.
All right, so this was a question from our friend Hellpop on the F4W board. Hellpop, we appreciate you. You're always out there talking about us, and we like it a lot. Thank you. He asked, by the way, this is probably on your list of topics already, but I would love to hear you both weigh in on should Dean Ambrose go back to WWE discussion, your thoughts on the Shield nostalgia match, Jon Moxley is the ace of AEW, all that stuff. This is not a question. I should not have phrased it like a question. It's okay if you don't get to talk about it. It was a question. It was a good question.
It was a question.
We talked about the Shield nostalgia thing. I think Trish covered that pretty well. But in terms of this came up this week because they did mention Dean Ambrose during the match, and I think anytime they mention him or somebody does a callback to his moves, a bunch of WWE fans get really excited because they think that means that Mox is coming back to WWE, and then that turns into a whole conversation about would Mox ever come back to WWE and blah 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 blah.
No.
I don't think so, but I'm also in that place of like never say never about anything ever, right?
Very
so
true. Yeah.
Do I think that the possibility is extremely, extremely minimal, especially at this moment in time? Very much so. Do I think it would never, ever, ever happen? And would I bet my life on that? No, I wouldn't. Because I also think one of the fun things that I find so fascinating about Moxley is because he tends to keep his opinions out of the limelight. He has them, but for the most part, people aren't really aware of them. And so as a result, you get a lot of people who do things like make insistence on things that they are sure that Moxley doesn't like or does like. And
yeah, we can think of some good examples.
Yeah, we saw this during like the CM Punk stuff, right? Where Mox and Punk are really close friends. And then we had the whole what's his dick thing, and they're not, right? And then we had the stuff about like Mox doesn't like the Elite. Like, actually he does. We had stuff about, Mox isn't into comedy. Like, no, he is. Like, there's a lot of things.
If you want to talk about Dean Ambrose.
Right.
What?
They're not into the fucking, he wasn't into the fucking Vince McMahon comedy, but I don't see how you've watched anything Mox has done in the last couple of years and thinks he doesn't like comedy and wrestling. Like, sorry.
And he has great timing.
He
does have great comic timing.
The man has won the Mommy's Little Ham Award from Tunnel Talk weeks in a row, and he deserves it. So, like, he is into this stuff. So I think that one of the things that is good is that he is smart about, to some degree, allowing himself to be a cipher in that way, where people don't actually know people, your average average wrestling fan is not aware of what his opinions are. So I think, which is funny for someone who talks as much as he does.
Yes.
He
constant yapper.
Yeah,
no
he
one
makes
knows
his opinions known elsewhere, but yeah. So like in that regard, like I just don't think that at this point, I don't think that Mox. I think the people who are like he'll never go back there, and I'm like, I don't know. Do I see a possibility at a period of time where he just is like, yeah, I want to do it? Sure. Do I think it's realistic? Likely? No. I think he's much more likely to open his own promotion than he is to go back to WWE. But that's my thought. Trish, tell me if you think I'm wrong. I'd love to hear it.
No, I think he's very comfortable in the spot that he's in.
Yeah.
He has the opportunity to do anything he really wants to do at the current time, whether that be story-wise, whether it be wrestling-wise, whether it be wrestling for other promotions, that sort of thing. He's, he has the ecosystem in place that I think is what he wants, but also what benefits him in terms of making him happy and comfortable. So I don't see any reason for the foreseeable future why he would even look back there. I don't think he'd have to worry about money and that sort of thing. I think that Tony Khan's not going to be undermatched, is he, by anything that WWE would
Some
put
of the
to
people
him,
that Tony Khan has not been undermatched on are boggling. Mox would not be one of those.
Yeah, that's not happening. So, yeah, he's pretty comfortable where he is. I think the talk about him going back is part of that thing of that nostalgia thing that we're seeing.
Yeah.
And so they have played into kind of a Shield nostalgia thing, but it's just a general thing, isn't it? So even though that's only like 12 years old and it only kind of was there for a couple of years, people are playing around with it like they do like the NWO, I guess. It's kind of weird. To me, I don't feel like we're far enough away from it to be playing nostalgia, but they are. So I think there's an element of that, and then people wanting, the first, obviously, to me, he was the first big jump guy, wasn't he, from WWE to AEW. So I think there's probably an element of that travel stuff of wanting him to go back there, as in the ultimate proof that AEW is not this or not that. But yeah, it's not happening anytime soon. I wouldn't put any chips down on that one.
No.
If that's what you're thinking. And I don't think it would suit him. I think it's moved further and further away from what he likes and enjoys, and he's made a very big point of, in the last few, since 2023 in AEW, of not really liking some of like the WWE stuff structuring or storytelling and that sort of thing. Yep. And when that sort of stuff's been in AEW, you will see his promos. You look at his promos back in 23 in the Continental Classic. It made very, very clear that style of wrestling or storytelling or whatever you want to call it, entertainment, whatever you want to call it, it's not for Jon Moxley.
No.
So the more that they go into those kind of areas with it, the less likely he's going to touch that thing. So that's pretty much it with that. And so just to wrap out the rest of the show, so Dom Mysterio lost to a clown as the AAA Mega Champion.
I didn't watch this, but I saw enough clips of it. It was bad. It was bad. It just,
like, if you're going to do something like this, it has to be funny. And this wasn't funny. And you could see how he felt about it when he started throwing himself around like Shawn Michaels' 2005 Hulk Hogan at SummerSlam match.
Well, and he's leaking that he's pissed off now too, apparently.
Well, yeah, he was doing loads of press prior to SummerSlam where he was just being honest about being pissed off, and, some people report stuff, some people don't. It just depends on who's talking about it and who they're talking about, right? So, so I could, why wouldn't you be? He's another one that hit his ceiling, right? He got so far, the crowd got behind him. He's not the greatest in-ring worker in the world, but in WWE, he had enough that you thought he'd go further, and it just stopped. And then he goes in and becomes a mega champion. And it's kind of like that thing when people are like dual contracted, isn't it? Like, you're out of sight, out of mind. And then they're like, oh yeah, we're doing something you were there, so it doesn't matter what we do when you're here. So if that means we feed you to a clown, then we can feed you to a clown. And that's what they did. Don't ever watch it again. Not funny, not that. Did you see the segment that they did on the Raw?
It was so bad. And not only was it bad, you could see the flop sweat. You could see Joe Hendry and Danhausen just fucking, oh God, because you were just watching the crowd, and the entire crowd, the best response in the crowd, I'm going to make the face and you're not going to see it, was like nobody was moving, nobody had their hands up, nobody was applauding, nothing was happening. The dancers were out there, the fucking crowd is dead silent.
And this is in front of all the execs, right? This is the LA show in front of all the execs.
It was absolutely horrible. And
then they ended it with a racist.
Oh yeah, the fucking guy. What is this? Ryan Clark?
Ryan Garcia.
Why don't I say
Yeah,
Clark?
and they were racist as well. Yeah,
Danhausen has got those, liberal bona fides.
Indeed.
Yeah. To me, it was just, I don't know. Like, this is one of those things where you're in trouble with a character like Danhausen, right? Because you're going to have that temptation to overuse him because he is that novelty factor. And we saw this in AEW, but they mostly confined it to their social media. He wasn't as prevalent on the shows in the beginning. And I think they, kind of had a better balance. And with this, WWE's like, fuck it. He's on every show. We're blasting him everywhere. We're doing everything. And I think it just, you hate him way more than I do. I think a character like this can exist in your world, but you just have to be really careful about it. And I don't think anybody's ever used the words TKO is careful or WWE is careful about fucking anything. This is a show. This is a promotion that beats you over the fucking head with everything they do. So,
but we can't shove Bro Breakker down someone's throats, but we can shove Danhausen so far that you like.
Well, that's just a fucking excuse. It's the same that you said Dom Mysterio, but we saw it with Braun Breaker. How many of these young guys have we seen it with over the last couple of years where they bring these people out and it's like, oh my God, this guy's the future. And then 6 months later, they're in the mid-card doing nothing.
They beat Trick Williams with Baron Corbin.
Right. I'm not optimistic about Oba Femi. Maybe it'll work, but you can see that so far the examples go the other way, right? And Dom is just an example of that. And like Danhausen, fine. He's like their version of the Miz right now, but I don't see how anybody watched that segment. Was it Raw or something? It was Raw, wasn't it?
Raw.
Yeah. I had that fucking song in my head for like a full day.
There were people on our Discord that thought you should have a forfeit of singing that song on this show.
I don't think I can do that. I believe that would make me someone, I believe that I'd be fucked. Like, just terrible.
That's close enough.
That's good enough. Yeah, just shit. I almost felt bad for Dom Mysterio, and that man has a tattoo on his neck, right? And I almost felt
we don't
bad
feel
for
bad
him.
For people with tattoos.
I just don't. I'm sorry. Like, if you made that kind of a life choice, and then you want me to like feel bad for you, I don't know. Whatever. Whatever's whatever.
Yeah, and then just a couple other things on the show. So, Liv Morgan defeated Io Sky in the opener on night 1, which is actually one of the better matches on the show. I said it. It was. It was. Like, legitimately. What are you laughing for? What are you laughing for? It was legitimately one of the better matches on the show.
Liv Morgan will never win.
Well, on this night, she beat Io Sky, and she did win, I guess, for a little bit, but it never lasts, right? But yeah, it was actually, for their, again, it's under their kind of structure. It was pretty good. They had an awful women's tag match. Just like Brie Bella gets injured quite early on.
Oh yeah.
But there's no excuse for the rest of them. It was just a disaster. And then they had Chelsea Green win the women's ladder match and for the interim title because Rhea Ripley is injured and now that looks a bit more serious. And now Chelsea Green's injured as well, so they'll have to tie that up.
She fractured her orbital on Friday night.
Yeah, and I think that's just a case of like interim belts. They're cursed.
Yeah.
Don't use them. They don't work. They just cause problems. Even when you put them on someone like Chelsea Green, who's not going to complain about being interim champion.
Nope.
Nah, doesn't work. Cursed. Leave it be. But yeah, I think I don't think any of them were. They were all functional. I wouldn't say there's anything massive to say about any of them, and I don't think any of them were promoted like a big matchup in the way that maybe Rhea Ripley was on the card. Or they may have done, but yeah, none of them felt like they treated them as consequential, and therefore we've not treated them as consequential as much in this review. So that's just one of those things. I do think they are regressing a little bit in the way that they treat the women's divisions compared to where they were at some points over the last 5 years, and especially now that they don't have Rhea Ripley around. We got a question also from our friend Matt that I've already referred to and then jumped ahead and then jumped back because it's me. And he said, do you think that the Raw rating not bouncing back as usual is a direct result of Netflix? You've lost probably the older fan who would flip over and see kind of what's up weekly and stay if there's no heavy sports competition. These folks are now out of the habit of checking in on your flagship show and they aren't going to lock themselves into Netflix for the night anyway, because that's not how they watched in the first place. I read that very poorly, but we kind of got there in the end. Do you also think it's helping AEW numbers creep up? These folks will watch wrestling and their usual fix isn't there. He ended it funny. He was like, I don't know. You're the expert and I'm just talking shit, which is good.
We're all just talking shit, Matt. We're
We're
all
all
just
just talking shit. Yes. So what I would say on this, go on, you go.
No, I think it's worthwhile. You know, we pointed this out, and I think it is something that's important. Wrestling is not a thing you can just flick to. You have to make when you're watching Raw, you have to make a conscious choice to watch Raw, put on Netflix, watch Raw. And that doesn't mean it can't be something like, I think one of the things people talk about is like you have multiple screens open, right? Like you're surfing the internet and you've got Netflix open and you're watching Raw, but you're sort of watching it out of the corner of your eye because you're doing something else, right? And or you're playing video games and you've got this going on an iPad or something along those lines. Like, so to some degree, I think older people, and I throw myself in that, can sometimes overstate the whole flicking through TV screens thing, because I think to some degree younger people have modified that to multiple screens, right? Instead of just going through at the commercial break. So I do think that, I mean, my gut says that if we were going to see a big change for AEW's ratings, we would have seen that a while ago, as opposed to like now. But I also think that it's one thing to make Raw a destination program and put it on when you know it's going to be good and you know you're going to see stars and you know you're going to see hot feuds. It's another thing to put it on when you're going to have to deal with Joe Hendry and Danhausen doing multiple segments every show. So it's possible that people who were looking at WWE and weren't watching AEW because they were watching WWE have kind of flipped back again because it's more interesting and WWE is worse. Those are some of those things you can guess at, but you can't ever really know for sure.
I think there's a good example in the UK from last year where when they moved to Netflix in the UK and AEW is available to everybody on free-to-air on ITV, we saw a couple of weeks where it seemed to impact on the rating for AEW.
Yep.
And it jumped big. And then it evened itself out. There's a couple of darts things thrown in there. But by February, March, it's going back to kind of its normal levels. So there was kind of like an interest of, I've not got my normal thing. Do I just check this out? And then it kind of just, we didn't really see any of that movement across. I do think when you are looking at total audience numbers, which is what we are looking at for Raw, and with all the premise that the Raw number, is something that Netflix create themselves, and obviously they use a different thing, but these numbers are all like messed about with, aren't they? Right? So I don't know how much of value you can put into them other than measuring them against like the numbers that they put up themselves previously. So you can look at Raw and say it's slightly lower than last year, consistently across the board now this year, but not by a massive amount. But also they've gained so many countries over the last year, from India to some of the European countries that were previously still holding the WWE network and having their Raw and SmackDown content and pay-per-views on other providers. So theoretically you should have an increase in those this year because of the additional availability in big markets where previously you could have had, especially in the case of India, millions and millions of people watching, and we're not seeing that reflected. So there is something to that, but at the same time it's like you're using total viewership, right? We're not splitting this down by demo. It's not like we're looking at 18 to 49, 18 to 34 younger viewership like you talked around there, who are more capable of kind of the multi-streaming option. So when you're looking at total viewership, you are probably going to look at this from the majority of that is made up of over 50s, and then in 25 to 54. So in that case, yes, the idea of this being a destination show that you have to turn on Netflix for is a barrier, because like I won't do it. Like if I'm sat just watching something and something on the background at the same time, and I'd be like, I'm just going to finish this game, and I might turn over for something else for 15 minutes while it's half time, and then I'll turn back. But I'm not going to go turn Netflix on and do that, because at the time I've turned Netflix on, got through everything like there, the stupid intro videos, go and found what I wanted to watch, with that, you've wasted 10 minutes anyway. It's completely different from turning one station up to watch, I don't know, if it's half time in a football, to turn them off and to watch cricket. So that is the kind of thing that they do lose by leaving kind of linear in terms of when they're on Fox, or leaving kind of cable when they're on USA or whatever, and going to Netflix. And I don't think there's enough on a weekly basis to make them a destination for that to kind of change. So you are probably going to see that because the total viewership number is so highly skewed by older viewership rather than younger viewership. And I also think when you look at, I thought was quite interesting with the pay-per-view numbers that came out for the half year, we've seen a lot of pay-per-views that have been lower on the weekly chart than last year. But then when they've come out on the 6-month chart, they've been slightly higher. And again, we have the proviso that they've increased their offering in terms of availability worldwide this year. But that also says to me that people will watch these shows but they maybe don't watch them straight away. Or the idea of everybody watching live, as you would have thought previously with a pay-per-view, has kind of been minimised a little bit. And that's something that I do think is an age-related thing, because, you know, how many times now do you go, I don't need to watch something exactly when it comes out, I can just wait and then we can just like binge watch it or something. Like you get a new series, like, I don't know, Stranger Things comes out, that's what people do, right? Or anything like that. So our changing habits in general would kind of fit into that model more than we all have to watch this at the same time, because I don't know if people still see wrestling in that sports way of like, oh, we have to see it like a boxing fight, right, or a UFC fight or something like that. I don't know if we view it that way. I think sometimes we just go, oh, I'll get round to watching that, like, you know, we do it at SummerSlam this time, right? We didn't say, oh, we have to watch SummerSlam that night to be able to talk about it. We'll watch it a week later, it's fine. Like, there isn't that anticipation unless urgency. It's something, urgency, unless it's something really, really big. So if this is like, I hate using the words hot and cold because like they trigger so much, right? And it's all very black and white. But if you had something that was generally kind of drawing greater interest, then I think you'd see that increase in those day and week numbers that we're not really seeing. And instead you've kind of got that thing where it's part of people's kind of cycles. Oh, I'll catch up on that and I'll maybe hear about it and I'll catch up on there again. But it's not driving people to watch it live, which is probably not a bigger problem for them under kind of the Netflix system as Correct. It would be under the advertising TV system. So it's not maybe as big an issue for them in the long term as maybe what we see it as. I'm going to go with that. And so our next topic, I'm just going to read I'm going to read the topic header and you can read what you wrote underneath. All right. And you can read it however you wrote it, because I just wrote WWE Radio and you wrote
fuck all the way fucking off. Fuck all the way fucking off. Fuck off with this shit and these fucking guys. Fuck them. Fuck them, sorry, but fuck all the fucking way off. Fuck these guys. This just pissed me off so much. And then to have to see Nick Khan be like, no, we really want these guys. We really want Busted Open to continue to be hard on WWE. Are you fucking shitting me with this bullshit? Are you shitting me with this bullshit? When has Busted Open ever been critical of the WWE? Okay? When have they ever been critical of the WWE?
When they cried about Cody losing his title match to The Rock.
Oh, come on. Come on, Trish. Jesus Christ. Like, and then you had our buddy King of the North posting their fucking quote where it was basically Bully and fucking Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray talking about how, you know, the WWE thanked them for all of their help by putting them in the front row and identifying them on the broadcast. Fuck you. Fuck you. Like, I can't stand this, and I said this on Twitter, and I fucking stand by it, because these old fucking fucks who think that they're owed something. Bully Ray, who, don't get me wrong, was I a fucking Dudley Boys fan when I was, when they were at their height? Of course I was. Did I like them as a tag team? Absolutely I did. But Bully Ray was not fucking beating the door down to do anything new, fun, or different, okay? He was in a mid-card tag team that had a couple of good years, and he has somehow parlayed that into a goddamn career where he has fucking shit on all sorts of people and made himself seem like he's the greatest thing since sliced fucking bread. And he has fucking, how many of those fucking shows was he on? Was he on Evolve? Wasn't he on Evolve shitting on younger guys? Like screw you. And like this whole, like who else is on this show, right? Mark Henry, Tommy Dreamer. These are the fucking guys that you're going to lead in the next generation. Nobody fucking needs to hear it. You guys, and like, I understand that it's nice to be like, appreciated. It's nice when people talk nicely about you. It's nice when it seems like but you should, as a fucking quote unquote journalist or someone who reviews wrestling, be ashamed to take this kind of like attitude that you're owed something by these promotions because you fucking covered them. Fuck you. Okay? I'm sorry. It's embarrassing that you act that way. It's embarrassing that you say this publicly. It's embarrassing that you even think it in the dark privacy of your own home when you're taking a shit on a Sunday night. Like that is just one of the almost horrifying things I've ever heard. And it's part of the reason why you end up with these guys who are just like happy to tell young guys how to quote unquote how to work. Fuck all the way off with this crap. How many of these guys have had their careers ruined because they listened to some old fat fuck who was trying to tell them how to work? Fuck off. Like, this is the kind of bullshit, like, I don't need to hear it. And I'm not trying to say that every old guy in wrestling is an asshole. I'm sure there's a bunch of people who are super nice and super willing to help people and not dicks. But this is a fucking encapsulation of dicks. And the other thing I want to say here is that if you are an absolute naive babe in the woods, if you think that this is a brand new thing, WWE and Busted Open, that this relationship is brand new and this just fucking happened. Those guys have been like, fuck these fucking guys.
All right, I'm going to do your bit now. I'm going to explain what we're actually talking about. Okay, so yeah, the Sirius FM.
Trish.
I know. I was just going to let you go. I was like, off we go. So Sirius FM channel 156 has been rebranded to WWE Radio. This is a move. I'm going to read my own writing here because everyone else wants to aggregate it. I'll aggregate my fucking self.
Aggregate yourself, girl.
Yeah. So the move follows a deal with media site Front Office Sports, which has already produced a number of co-opted articles since the deal was struck and abandoned all critical analysis of issue stories regarding the promotion. The news also comes in the same week that Andreas Hale, who reported on Janelle Grant case for ESPN, was part of the latest round of cuts by the media giant. WWE Radio will begin, or has begun, on Monday, July 27th, and will feature live broadcasts they did from SummerSlam of WWE's signature PLEs, which was, thrilling, I'm sure, and feature a slate of podcasts from the promotion, such as Stephanie McMahon's The Undertaker and Cody Rhodes, on top of shows from WWE pre-show panel regulars Sam Roberts and Pete Rosenberg. That sounds thrilling. And then obviously they keep Busted Open, but they fired Thunder Rosa because she's from AEW, and they cut MJF from the promotional opening. And the thing for me is you're right. We've been told off the record a number of times, which we can now talk about over the last year, that there were WWE money involved in Busted Open. Yeah. Yeah. From high-level sources who have said this is the belief in the industry and they believe they have evidence of it. It's not a new relationship. It has been that kind of tone-screwing. And I think it's one of those things. So you're either going to look at it this way. The reason they are doing it is they want control of that full narrative.
Yep. It's
incredibly important. And we talked about it with the Sami Zayn title change around Forbidden Door, right? Like, you do this here because you want to control the news cycle for that weekend. And here they have something where they have a radio show, which is well listened to across wrestling. And you make it under your narrative. You make it talk only about the things that you want to talk about. And therefore the idea is that you control that narrative, but also you make everything else feel unimportant. Because this is wrestling to them. And this is wrestling to your audience, is exactly what you want to say. So they can say nothing changes and that sort of thing. But when you've got Dave LaGreca coming out the day the deal was made and saying, we've partnered with the greatest wrestling company in the world and that sort of thing, it's like, just give up and go home.
Just why it's nothing they say is and you can't listen to a fucking thing they say now. Kayfabe interviews is the best thing you can do, right? You're going to believe anything that comes out of these guys' mouth when they talk about whether the show was good or not? No, you're not. Mm-hmm. They're not. They're fucking completely co-opted.
Yeah, there's no, you can't pretend there's independent thought here, because there's not. And if you want to be that, if that's what you're aiming to be within this industry, you want to go and be a co-opted kind of person with works for WWE and their media arm, and we're seeing this more and more in sports about how people want to control kind of the way that they communicate with their audience, and therefore these are the kind of things that you're going to see more and more of. Like, we bring you our news ourselves. There's no independent kind of journalism involved here. Then fine. Like, that's what you're going to get. And that's what, if you expect that and that's what you want, that's what you're going to get. But if you want to see anything else and you want to kind of see anything else in the market, that kind of opportunity to do so is becoming less and less and less and less, because they're all going to start on this now. I think, and I'm not comparing, let's be clear, I'm not comparing Tony Khan in any way to what they're doing here, no. But he's already talking about AEW Podcast Network, and they're doing it because it's the whole media strategy that's going on across sports, it's going on across everywhere at the moment. So you don't need people to go to anywhere else because you can get your news from us. And yeah, it sucks. It's detrimental to the media landscape. Again, it means that in terms of not even combative, but kind of coverage of any of their kind of issues and that sort of thing, you're going to see even less and less of it, because the amount of outlets that are available to it are becoming less because there's so many more becoming co-opted, and it's all about controlling the way that people talk about these things. It's the same reason they run NXT and AAA on the same days.
Yep.
It's the same way they're running, the AAA show in Chicago in September against All Out. The NXT, it's a joint one, isn't it? It's when Worlds Collide. And, for them, in a way, that one is actually kind of clever because they're running a bigger arena. They're running a market where they know they're going to have huge interest from the local population because the AAA name means something there. There's a lot of independent lucha libre shows held in that area. And they're going to make a big thing. I know everyone's talking about CM Punk, but the big thing is that the Lucha Brothers will be the big selling point, really, for a lot of the tickets in that market, depending on what they do coming off the Triple Mania shows. So that one is half clever in a way because you're going to have... It's like a de facto win, isn't it, right? Like a default win. Like, they're running a bigger arena. They sell more tickets. People are going to be like, oh, you're bigger than AEW next to AAA. But the whole idea is not just that. It's like they want you to talk about AAA versus AEW that weekend, not WWE versus AEW.
Right.
They want you to talk about the fact, they had the bigger crowd than this big AEW show, which will be the first pay-per-view, that Will Ospreay main events as champion. Spoiler, we don't really need to do that. Come on now, everyone knows in the world.
Right.
But it's like, that's what they want. And it's the same reason why they've done this thing with Roman Reigns defending the WWE Championship in Mexico and on the Raw. And they did that the same day that AEW were doing Grand Slam in Mexico City. Like, that's, again, it's about controlling that news cycle. So you're not talking about AEW's show in Mexico, which we'll talk about, which was a great in-ring show, but probably didn't have many headlines, I would say, that would make headlines in Mexico, a big deal. I don't know, you had like MJF return and stuff, but like big news story.
Right.
And then they can say, we're putting a world championship defense on Raw on the same day. So it's a whole thing. It's a horrible promotional name on it, but it is very much control the narrative. That is exactly what they're doing now. And they seem to see that as big a fundamental important point as it is to trying to combat AEW by just putting on better TV your fucking selves. It's like, and it's
hard.
just...
It's just a lot easier to buy a radio station than it is to actually put on good wrestling. Yeah.
So if you listen to Busted Open, if you enjoy what they do, just... fine, you carry on with it, but just you have to understand that you're basically listening to their own pravda, essentially, right? It's their controlled narrative, same as front office sports, and what they put out. You're already picking up on how things are phrased in order to protect WWE rather than to analyse anything critically when it comes to important stories about the promotion. And that's just where we're at. And it's depressing, but that's why everybody else has to push on with trying to do the best they can to cover as many things as possible and to not kind of be bought into that. And I think there is a culture of that is probably brought about by the lack of money in journalism and wrestling. Yeah. I would say.
Well, journalism in general.
In general, yeah. Absolutely. Well, yeah, it's not just wrestling, is it? It's an issue we see in many kind of entertainment or sports or anything like that. Anything that covers like that there's always going to be this element where it's going to be about what access you can get and what you can get for it in kind of... It's not retaliation, what's the word?
Exchange?
Like reciprocal. Yeah, like exchange. Like, because there isn't the pay offering that there should be, and that's more about the changing face of kind of journalism than access and everything else, isn't it? But it's a wider issue that's kind of reverberating now in wrestling, and that's kind of the reason why.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
But we just talked about WWE counter-programming AEW and around Grand Slam. So it's probably a nice time to move over to AEW and we can talk about that show. So, Sarah, what did you think of last Wednesday's Grand Slam?
I thought Grand Slam was great. Like, it was a 3-hour show. It was a long show, but it was a great show. Soup to nuts. I mean, I have a couple of tiny quibbles, but they're my tiny quibbles, but just phenomenal wrestling, minimal promos, which I think help, right? And just a great show that had, pretty much everybody on it. And I thought it was really good. I what did you think?
I think sometimes they're at their best when there's the least complicated things are.
Yeah.
So, and I have a couple of quibbles around a couple of the finishes and stuff that I thought were really strange, and a couple other things. But a lot of this was them being left to their devices to put out the best wrestling they could across a show that didn't feel completely rushed. I didn't think it overstayed its welcome. I think maybe you can cut 5 minutes here from there. But in the most part, it's one of them, like, because everyone likes to talk about the length of the shows. And I understand it. If you want to talk about it from how much it benefits the company, like in a ratings perspective, they can see a huge drop off in that last half an hour. Right? Yeah. Fine. If you want to talk about it from an interest perspective as a fan, I think there's 2 or 3 different things. I don't really know how the DVR stuff works in the US, so I'm not even going to comment on that. But I would... I don't. Like, we don't do that.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that, but I just think it's funny.
Well, we have, like, My AEW, and then we have, like, ITV Plus, ITV X, so I don't do any of that. So it's just not relevant to us. But I can understand if that's an issue. If you're used to how to do things, it's frustrating, fine. But there's 2 parts to it. So a show like this, when it's this sort of thing, when you've got, 8 matches and the people that are all in them and you want to kind of highlight everything and the kind of subtle stories or the things that are building up towards all in, fine. That's where a show of this length, I can live with it. Like it fits the thing. It's a branded event, Grand Slam Mexico. You have that massive advantage of having that really, really great crowd. Right, so that you're going to have that kind of feeling going all the way through. It's not like it's going to play out in front of silence in an 8,000 arena or whatever, and there's 3,000 in there that we've seen in the past. So you have all those elements that make those kind of 3 hours work, as opposed to some weeks. Like, I think last week you could have cut out like 25 minutes to the end of hour 2, like the Moxie Commander match and other stuff. And then you have everything feels more succinct and you don't feel like you're just treading water with time. And I think that's a difference to me. When I feel like it's like the 3-hour SmackDown things, right? If everything was crisp and put together, like, you probably wouldn't feel it as much. But when everything feels slow and plodding and it doesn't feel like these things are actually moving narrative along, it just feels like they're there just to fill time. Right. Then it's different. Then I have no interest in it being 2.5 hours.
Every show is different. Boring. Like you said, some shows are really good. That was a really good show with a lot of phenomenal wrestling and an incredible hot crowd and an unbelievable atmosphere. It was 3 hours, but it didn't feel like 3 hours. No. And I think that's, there were rampages that felt longer than that show. Let's be realistic. Like,
it really was.
There's collisions that consistently feel a lot longer than that show. Like, we've sat through shitty. That's not one of them. Okay. I think
sorry.
No. That was pretty much my point. Like, I think to say, again, like anything else, you can't make a uniform rule about something. If you're going to put on a boring show, doesn't matter how long it is, it's going to feel fucking like it takes forever. If it's a great show, it's going to fly by.
And I think it's because they had enough variance in the show as well. I think that really helped.
Yes.
Because, like, and in a way, it's one of them things. So last year, because it was the first one in Arena Mexico, and being the way they structured it, it was like there was 2 really big moments, right? So you had the promo at the start, the Page promo, all in Spanish, which really felt like announcing the brand to the country.
Yes.
And then you had the huge kind of Mystico entrance and then the Mystico MJF match and everything around that, like that crazy atmosphere for that one. And they're probably the things that stand out the most when you look back at that card. Whereas I think this one, like, you can't replicate that. No. You can't replicate that feeling. It's like first Wembley and then people talk about
the first Forbidden Door. Like,
exactly like that. You just can't. So then you have to do something different. So this time they went with, okay, we're going to put on I actually felt a much stronger in-ring show than last year. We're going to do that. And we're also going to do the first AEW title change in Mexico. I think they probably should play that a bit harder, actually. Had the cool entrance, though, I know.
Tits for days.
But it was fun. So you did that, and then you did the street fight at the end, which was an interesting one because obviously that's a venue where they don't do street fights.
No.
Yeah, CML don't do street fights. They don't do weapons. You don't do brawling in the crowd, that sort of thing. So for me, I think the way I looked at it is last year was very much thank you for letting us in your house. We're paying homage to you. And this one felt very much like we're putting on an AEW show in Arena Mexico.
Yes. Yes.
That was how I felt about this show in particular. And then, yeah, there was kind of different points to it. So I guess is it I don't know how to do this bit. Is it worth just talking through like the bits on the All In card and then we can talk about how it was in this show and then the Detroit show as well? And then because all the questions that we've got around that as well? Or do you want to talk about the stuff on this show separately?
I think it's probably worthwhile. I mean, like I said, it's a great show. I'm going to feel stupid complaining about anything. I did not. No. Adam Copeland just makes me laugh. Like, he just makes me laugh at this point. People are like, he got a great pop. I'm like, he's an entrance merchant at this point, right?
Well, he was going to. He was always going to get the biggest pop on the show because he was when they were on like linear television in Mexico, he was one of the big guys in WWE. And he's never been to Arena Mexico. So he was the guy that we expected to get the biggest pop on the show, and they opened with it. Yes, which is sensible.
Good for them.
Yeah, I'm never completely in on it because I always think like you should celebrate your own nostalgia in front of WWE nostalgia, and this was playing into the other. But whatever, they got the big pop, they opened with it. I thought the match was fine because the crowd were kind of really into it, even when he's like 619 when
he can't don't do the same. Look, dude, I'm speaking directly to you at this point. I know you're never going to hear this, but I don't fucking care. Don't do the same moves as Nick Jackson. Well, don't do the same moves as Nick Jackson while Nick Jackson is doing that move. Okay, it's never going to look good. Nick Jackson is one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's still young. Just don't do it. You didn't look good. You looked like shit. Just don't do it. It's not good. Do your own thing. Like, just don't. Okay, just don't. Like, it's fine. I'm just like, this is one of those things for Wembley where I'm just like, if the Young Bucks lose to these guys, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind, right? There's no world, there's no point on earth where the Young Bucks should be losing to these fucking guys. And I'm sorry. It's how I felt about the fucking Hardy Boys. It's just not in 2026. Not with them looking like this. They maybe by cheating, if they tied Nick Jackson up and put him in the corner and then beat the crap out of Matt Jackson with a belt, then they can win. But I don't want to see it. It just should not fucking happen. Okay, it just shouldn't. That's my bright right line. I'm standing it by there. I'm sorry. It just should not fucking happen. If it does, I'm going to be like Tony Khan needs to be executed. Now that's aggressive. I'm being ridiculous, but you understand what I'm saying.
This was a really interesting finish in a way because they had the like little bump into each spot and then Copeland got rolled up by John Moxley.
Oh, well then he had to get the visual pin and I was just like,
yeah,
Jesus,
of course he did.
But like, I fucking hate that.
But it was weird because it's like, all right, so Moxley pins him and so isn't Moxley now in line for a tag title shot? Like, why would you have Moxley pin him when
because Moxley's the next WWE guy he'll lose to?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, yeah, he's lost to Harwood, Moxley, Christian. That's it, right? That's the list. Right. I think that's
he's here to work the young kids.
Yeah, that's his pinfall. That's his pinfall loss list in AEW.
Right.
But it's like so. But for me, the thing about this program is so this was always set out to be like 2-team program, and we'll see if it stays that way. There's kind of a lot of stuff on the All In card that's up in the air this weekend, so we'll come back to. We'll probably know a little bit more as we go into next week. But it's like. It's a weird match in a way because they're having to build it now from scratch because they've not really been building it through the year. They did a couple promos after Revolution where I do think the belt should have changed. The more I look at it now, I just think the belt should have changed. But whatever, it was never planned to. It was there to aid FTR, whatever. But they've never really come back to this story of like the Bucks trying to redeem themselves for the kind of stuff last year after you had the Broke Buck stuff because they've been used to kind of rectify other people's stories, right? So you do the one where they get the win over Takeshita and Okada, but they're doing it to kickstart the Takeshita and Okada thing for Double or Nothing. So all the focus is on Takeshita and Okada. And then Double or Nothing, they, weren't going to be on the show at one point, and then you put them in the Stadium Stampede because we need them on the show. But they're not really doing anything effectively in their own stories there. They're just part of an ensemble. Fine, okay, whatever. And then you do the thing at Forbidden Door where it's like, okay, we're going to start setting them up like to kind of come back. But before then, they need to lose to the Dogs because we need to put the Dogs up against Cope and Christian. So it's like, okay, well, we just do it. but it doesn't build anything to their story. There's no narrative. Like, we've not kept this narrative flow going for them, like, during this whole thing. So then it feels like really, really big and important. We've kind of made this thing now where, like, you've then got to build it from scratch, like the interest in this. And it's the same with, like, the, you know, they had to go in and fix the Moxley Ospreay stuff, and I wasn't a big fan of what they did at Redemption in terms of a whole angle, but I guess it has the end result of breaking him away from the Death Riders, which was the important bit going into, you know, the Kenny thing. But it was like, again, it's like, you got it because of that part of that story. You're not winning. You don't have that narrative drive. You don't have that momentum because you're only winning because other people are fucking up or you're fixing their stories. And I think that makes this difficult now in a way, because you've not got Cope and Cage playing like real antagonists. You know, Christian's doing his kind of thing, but it's not, you know, he's still babyface in that way because they're used to that sarcastic character. So you've then got to build that, but you've not built this thing for them to really overcome and do the quote-unquote redemption thing. So I think it's an interesting one.
They're also gone 9 months out of the year. It'd be one thing if they were like doing their own programs where it's like, you know, the Bucks came in, but like the Bucks were off doing other stuff fine. Like you've detailed out, I get it. Mm-hmm. I don't agree. I don't like it, but whatever, it's happening. You understand why. But like Cope and Cage are not around. They're not doing anything. Yeah. They're not having, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, you got one match with Yuta and Garcia, like, or whoever.
Yeah, where they like the Bucks have to earn a title shot and they just get the title shot like that. Right. It's like it's uneven, and that's the problem, isn't it? So, and I think that's the little thing, right? So I think at the moment when you watch these shows, if you're really interested in the top part, and we'll talk about Willow and Mercedes and Kenny and Warren in a minute, then you're willing to overlook the stuff underneath. I think some of the build for this particular like big show coming has been really, really scatty underneath. So you've got, for example, like the Brawling Birds, right? They get a title shot at Wembley that's been laid out, like you can see it, like that was their end destination for months. And they get it because Willow pinned Mercedes.
Right.
Like, you're not narratively earning anything as baby faces here. That's the second one. And I think, like, even like the way Willow won the belt, like the run up to that, and we accept that was completely, like, there were so many things that have happened there that led to that not feeling as much. Like, I think they're very lucky in a way, and this is not to take away from Willow and Mercedes, because I think what the work they did in that promo combined with that Detroit crowd really helped.
Yes.
But you look at it, that feeling when you came out of that night at Redemption was not really what you wanted in terms of Willow's first title win. It didn't feel special. It didn't feel like it had been earned in like the kayfabe build-up, right? It just felt like it was something that happened. Very much like when Chris Statlander ran.
Right.
And it was like, and you don't want it to feel like that. You want to feel like people are really like over the moon. You know, this is one of the coolest baby faces, pure baby faces that they have in the company. Not men's, women's, just in the company.
Right.
And I get that, you know, if she was chasing Mercedes and they did that at Wembley, and I wasn't 100% sure anyway that Willow was going to win at Wembley, but if you did that, maybe it's different. But we're not in that situation. So you flipped everything around and you've got to kind of make everything work from that. And I think, you know, the way they recovered from that on the Dynamite in Detroit with that promo, and the way that Willow's just natural vibrancy as a babyface, it's like purity in a weird way. It's a horrible word to use, but it's like she just has that natural thing that makes people kind of,
the crowd, everybody loves her. They adore her, and they should. Yeah. You look at her and you're like, there's no reason why they shouldn't. Like that whole promo segment and her coming out, like, yes, it was awkward in spots, and it was, you know, she was really emotional, but it just felt so genuine and it felt so honest. Yeah. And you could just tell everybody in the crowd loved her. And the heat that Mercedes got just from fucking coming out there, right? Mercedes didn't have to do anything. It was just how much the audience absolutely adored Willow. Like, that's an incredible connection with the audience, especially given, you know, that her booking at times has not always helped that or aided it. You know, she's to some degree, the amount of, again, we've talked a lot about the amount of time the women's division gets, the amount of time that the mid-card women get. Like, she's kind of at times been sort of out there, and the crowd still is apeshit for her, which that to me is that's just phenomenal. I thought that promo segment was excellent. Like, I thought it was across the board. Beautiful. Yeah, I thought it was the best thing that's been on their TV in a while, like promo wise, in forever. Yeah. And it's a very much, you know, we talked earlier about how many face versus face stuff there is, and I can get doing it kind of one on that, but I think there's so much more value in getting people behind someone and to believe in someone. And I wasn't 100% sure they'd be able to do that, because the dynamics are weird, right? So you've got a heel that's very, very popular and more well known, chasing a baby face
who's having their first title run, who didn't have that big build or, you know, anything really that felt like any sort of build whatsoever, really, if we're really honest, to winning this belt. So I thought, how are they going to manage that dynamic? And I thought that Mercedes was very good at allowing the crowd to be with Willow as well.
Yes.
She didn't come over the top of it. She didn't try and do too much. She just said, okay, right, we've got them. And it's like that adaptation, isn't it? Like, we don't need to do too much here because we have that. We just need to reinforce it.
Yep.
And they did a great job at that. And it's then about how you like can keep that kind of consistently going and then how you deal with the challenge at Wembley.
Her coming out and being like, sign the contract, and that was pretty much it, right? And then a couple of, and then the whole thing about like, you're always in my way was just, she absolutely is. And I have to give the fucking promotion credit for like letting that simmer in the background, right? Because this is again what AEW, when they're firing on all cylinders, they do really well, is you have these natural enemies that are sort of always circling each other, even when they're not directly impeding each other's stories, right? And it just, I just feel like that was really well done. All of that was just perfectly executed. Mercedes is one of those people where like I literally sat there watching it and I was like, if she loses at Wembley, she's fucking cemented in my mind as the GOAT. Like, I don't know if that's going to happen. And honestly, even if she wins Wembley, she's still in my mind cemented as the GOAT. But I'm just like this, she's just not afraid to, I think there are people, and especially I feel like as a woman, especially I feel like as a Black woman, it's got to be really hard to just go out there and be like, some of these people just hate me, right? Like they hate me. They hate me for existing. And you know that there are fucking wrestling fans who hate Mercedes Moné for existing, right? And she's
definitely from moving from WWE.
Oh, hugely from moving from WWE. She's not afraid to lean into that. She's not afraid to just sit there and be like, fine, I'm going to take that and I'm going to use it for the benefit of the baby faces that I'm facing. And I'm going to do what I can to get them over as much as I'm getting myself over. Right. And I don't know. I just appreciate that more and more. She's somebody that when she came in, I was like, I don't know about this. Is this going to work out? And I'm just so happy to have been proven wrong. Like even the faint, and not that I had huge doubts, but the faint doubts that I did have, I'm just pleased to be proven wrong on that and to see how she's like, yep, what do you need? I'll do it. Right. I don't know. I just think it shows her commitment to wrestling. It shows her commitment to freaking women's wrestling, as much as I hate that phrase. It shows her commitment to like, I don't know. She's clearly someone who loves what she does and loves her opponents and is just, I don't know. I'm a big fan. I don't know what to say.
I think it's a difficult choice for Wembley because of the way the setups have to be flipped.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's a genuine like 50-50 choice because I think there's more benefit right now to giving it to Willow, but there's also that thing of, as a promoter, you know, you want Mercedes at top.
Do you hurt her if you hold off on this and you beat her again? Like, it's not as easy as I'm making it sound.
But if you do that, then you have to start looking at flipping babyface, right? To then chase, because you can't then do the heel. Like, you've lost twice as a heel. Like, you're going to have to at some point. Like, you either get more vicious or you go babyface. The more you're going to get more sympathy because you've been beaten twice. So therefore, the appeal of going more babyface, it's there. But she's naturally more heel mannerism, you know, especially in the way she's wrestling, because she's the one that leads the matches. She controls the matches.
Yep.
So although she can work, you know, from underneath, we've seen plenty of that over the course of like her career. I think she's worked so much more, and this is because of like the position the division is in as well. I think she's worked so much better as like that lead heel that can control the matches and work with people that are, you know, less. I wasn't going to say less developed, but they just don't have the experience that she does. So she fits the role that's required for the division within this character by being the character that she is. And I don't know if you want to lose that either. So it's kind of complicated. But also, you don't really want to give Willow like a transitional run. No. Because, I mean, and maybe you can get away with it saying it's not her big run, but how many times can you do this? I mean, I think sometimes there's this thing about babyfaces in AEW where you have to make them struggle, and we have to make them struggle, and we have to make them struggle. And sometimes it's just like, well, you keep doing that and people just move on to the next person, you know?
I think it's one of those things where, and I think when I spoke about it a few minutes ago, I made it sound easier than I thought it was. It was one of those things where I watched it and I'm watching it and I'm like, how do you beat Willow? You can't possibly beat Willow. How the fuck do you beat Willow? She has to win. And then I stopped watching it and we went on to something else and I'm thinking about it and not watching it. And I'm like, how do you beat Mercedes? How do you beat Mercedes? You can't beat Mercedes here. She needs a win too. Like, I would not want to be in this position. And I think in some ways it's good that they're in this position because like but at the same time,
it makes it interesting.
It makes it fucking interesting. I have no idea what he's going to do here. Like, and I do feel like and I compare that to the Brawling Birds. You watch the Brawling Birds and you're like, oh, okay, they're getting a title shot because they're going to be in Wembley and they want a British team to win. And oh, hey, here that, which is fine, but it just is. It's like that. The show is doing the booking rather than the booking doing the show. And
that's exactly what this is across the board in lots of places.
In a lot of places, right? And you saw that even with Excalibur, and he's like, Ospreay could become the first British man to win the thing in his hometown. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, this should not be. Like,
that's not the line. Like,
it's not the line. It's not. It can't be the line. It's pandering if that's the line. If the only reason why he's winning is because it's in the country he's from, you're already fucked, right? You're already fucked. That's not a reason for. There's been
too much reliance on that already. Like, there's been too much. So now he's doing he took, obviously, with the promo that he did with Kenny Omega, he took the Jon Moxley stuff from the I'm a Legend promo and like, I'm the ace, give me the ball and that sort of thing. But I still think, and our friend Chris Gannon brought this up, that he's missing that real kind of motivation behind him that people can kind of resonate with in that way. I'm not saying he's not over. Start me on
I'm
that
not
shit,
saying he's not over.
right?
Don't say he's not over. Of course he's over.
No, but it's like there isn't that sort of resonance. And I think it's hard to do that anyway, because there's always the predictability with this one, right? So when it comes to that, but what I thought they are thinking about now, and I always think it's fun to think about what would happen if like the original schedule had been kept to, right, and Omega had beaten MJF at Redemption, and you wouldn't have done the angle there because you weren't doing the angle there. Like, that's kind of funny to think about. But it's like their whole thing at the moment is just basically trying to make him the big babyface now. Probably months after where we should have done, but we are where we are.
Right.
So we do the thing at Redemption to split him away. They do the promo last week. And what I thought was really interesting about the promo in Detroit was he entered that promo the fourth most babyface on the show. Right?
Yeah.
I would say the fourth, right? The returning guy, big pops, fine. Kenny was more over at the start of that promo than Will was, and Willow.
Yeah.
And you can see the moment they get to a point where you can see Kenny step back. I thought it was really interesting to watch. And I think, we got some kind of, what's the word? We have kind of a look into his kind of mindset. And his mindset for this run out to this match is, Will has to be the babyface going in. And it sounds really simple, right? You think about that. You want Kenny to be more the antagonist because he's the champion, he's the mountain for him to overcome. But we've not really emphasized that, because part of this problem with this story, and it's complex, because if it was just complex, we like complex stories. There's lots of people that tell complex stories we like in this promotion. Like, it's not. The problem is that the logic hasn't really added up to make you want to cheer for Will more than the person he's across the ring with, right? So he's going, he does the promo and it starts out with, here's why I enjoyed being in ISIS. And it's like, okay, how am I supposed to connect to that? It's like, I get a commander, okay, yeah, but you were happy for these people to beat up the baby faces and you turned a blind eye until it was right in front of you, and you considered taking out Kenny Omega with a plastic bag. It wasn't like you just turned around and saved it. No, okay. And then it's like, and he's going on, and he does the thing. There was a line in the promo that I would have just taken out where he was just like, I gave my neck. And I'm like, well, that guy nearly gave his life, and he didn't recovered and got the belt all by himself and didn't need to turn to the people that took him out. So you are trying to dig over this logic gap of, one guy has actually got there in a more babyface way, but you need them to cheer for the other guy. So in a way, you can see how they switch it. So Kenny moves into a little bit more of a paranoid character where he says, you were trying to set me up, you were trying to trick me, even though like there's an element of that that's true because he considered doing the plastic bag stuff. And then he does it with the slap, right? And he changes the entire mood of the promo. And then by doing that, you then leave the floor open for Ospreay to do the big closing promo. And then everyone goes, oh yeah, he's a great baby. So it's the same thing as what Mercedes did in a way, but in a different construct. But you're achieving the same goal in so many ways. Like, and it's different because obviously Willow came out stronger to start with, right?
Well, the crowd, yes. The crowd is, again, I'm not trying to say that Ospreay is not over. Ospreay is over, no. But Ospreay is not facing Mercedes Moné. He's facing Kenny Omega, and the crowd loves Kenny Omega as much as they love Will Ospreay.
Yeah, so you've got to do something different. And I think things have made it murkier enough, and you can hear it from, we could hear it for months and months of the receptions that they weren't quite where they were last year or in 2024. So you have to flip that now. And the way that they did that in this one was to kind of get through the logic to try and get it where it needs to be. It's not perfect. It's not like everything's well written. He is telling the same story he told in 2024. There's still the same logic gaps in it, but we just need to flip it there. And they did it by the construct of that promo. So then he gets the big close and rah, rah, rah. And then I thought they were clever with what they did in Mexico this week, in that he wasn't in a 6-man. He wasn't trying to do a promo or anything. Obviously, that wouldn't have worked in that place. It's like, and it would be too comparable to what happened last year, and you don't want to do that, right? I'm sorry, right? There's it's a Welsh comedian that does a thing about like English people in Spain, and it's the only thing I can think of if he tried to speak Spanish. Yeah, gold chains and Ben Sherman shirts, but it's like
Benidorm.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's like you do something, what's going to be the biggest thing that's going to make him the big baby face in front of the Mexican crowd? And the easiest answer was to wrestle. I think you probably even got more out of him if he just wrestled like normal. But you're also going to put him in a match where, you know, whatever you want to say about ethics about doing it in Arena Mexico, it's different from the rest of the show and it's different from what they normally see. Right. And the emphasis is all on him. And it's him versus a heel. You know, so you don't have that thing where he's splitting the attention with other people on the show or anything like that. If you did like a dream tag and you teamed in with Mystico versus something like that, then Mystico is going to be treated as the bigger guy, right? So it's like you don't want to do that. So I thought they were sensible in that. But the whole thing now is like we need to make this guy the big baby face going into All In, and that means it's kind of a weird one because Kenny's whole thing is about Will, right? That's like the emphasis. And I think there's an element of people that will probably look back at the last month and a half and think it's probably not what people envisioned for Kenny to get, but I think most people will be happy if they get the beginning and the end. It maybe isn't the babyface reign that they wanted for him when they've always envisioned a babyface reign for Kenny Omega in this company. But we've been through many a time while it is what it is this year. But they'll be happy if they get that beginning and they get that big kind of Wembley match for Kenny though.
I think it's better. I agree with you that they did do an improvement with that. And I think giving Kenny like a personal motivation for being pissed at Ospreay helps a lot. For me, I think one of the things I'm struggling with is that Ospreay still comes across as a fucking idiot, right? Which is fine because that's been his character the whole time. He's stupid. But I also think part of the challenge I'm having came out of that Detroit, the opening segment of that Detroit Dynamite, right? Where this is Will Ospreay, who has spent the last however many years begging for friends and desperately wanting friends. And then all of a sudden here comes Hangman being like, hey, you need help? I'll be your friend. And he's like, no, I have to do this by myself. And like, I don't know that I am convinced that that makes sense. And I'm not sure that like angsty Will Ospreay having to go it alone, like now all of a sudden, because Kenny was betrayed by the Death Riders, not because Ospreay was. They didn't attack Ospreay, they attacked Kenny.
No, the choice was still forced upon Will. He still didn't make the choice himself when we turned to agency. Yeah.
Right. So that's the part for me where I'm just kind of like, I'm still struggling a little bit. Like it's still not perfect for me because it's like we're consistently retconning. I agree with what Tunnel Talk said this morning. I think it was Anne that was like, it's like they make a decision and then next week they're trying to fix the decision they made last week, as opposed to having having a clearly thought out plan that is, maybe had a couple bumps in the road and maybe we're refining it here and there. Instead, it's like, and I just think they've tried to shoehorn Ospreay into a story that doesn't work to his strengths, and it works to Moxley's strengths, right?
Yes.
And listen, I will. I again, obviously, I'm critical of Jon Moxley, so therefore I must hate Jon Moxley. I think there's degrees to which Jon Moxley is a fucking genius, right? Like I watched the opening of that Detroit show and I was like, yes, show me the fucking reaction to what's going on the screen. Like I thought that was fucking great. I don't know why we don't do more of that. I appreciate his willingness to try new things. Some of them do not work at all. And I think back to that Darby prison segment, right? And like that just didn't work for me. I appreciated his willingness to try it though. Like do something different. Like take us out of the basic rote whatever. I just think that again, this was a Jon Moxley program adapted for Will Ospreay rather than being a Will Ospreay program adapted to play to Will Ospreay's strengths with some Jon Moxley assistance. And that's what has been the thing that has been hurting it basically since the beginning. And I will also say that Moxley ending that whole promo at the beginning of that Dynamite with Death Ground was the greatest. I couldn't stop laughing. Like, what is Death Ground? Like, at this point, I'm going to have a bad day and I'm going to be like, Death Ground. Like, I'm on the Death Ground now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I need a tampon. It's the Death Ground. Like,
you have a point though, because if Ospreay's big promo is to mimic a Jon Moxley promo rather than produce one of his own,
right?
That's plays into that thinking, right? Like, I get it, like, you're paying to it in, it's like, but you're still giving too much of your own kind of build to Jon Moxley for me. That's kind of how I felt about that. We got a question from Chris Chopping, another Welsh comedian friend, actually. All the comedians. We have all the comedians. Who asked, what did you make of Paige essentially giving Ospreay his endorsement and encouragement against Kenny in that opening promo?
I'm fine with that, to be honest with you, because, like, yes, Kenny and Hangman have had a relationship, but it's not a recent relationship, right? Like, Hangman has not been on screen with Kenny for, like, Hangman's been on screen more. Yeah, like, he's been on screen more with Ospreay than he has been with Kenny. So I'm kind of like, that's fine. I wish they had done a better job of, like, underlining that a little. Like, you know, they didn't, but that's fine. But, like, you know, they did what they could with the time they had. I agree.
I thought it was weird to see him be like, oh, you know, I can't trust Kenny because I can't trust you. And I was just like,
that was odd. I was like,
yeah, that doesn't really add up to
that was the part. That was the part where I was like, Ospreay's coming across like a moron and also out of character, because in my mind, you know, Golden Retriever Will Ospreay would be like, you want to hang out? You want to hang out? I'd totally love to hang out. You want to hang out? That's great. We're gonna fucking hang out. That'd be amazing. Like, and so as a result, it's like, what? This doesn't make a lot of sense, especially with the Death Riders literally stage left to the point where you could see them. I don't know. It didn't make a lot of sense to me.
It's a funny one, because my understanding is that segment was not originally written for Hangman. It was written for somebody else. But I'm not openly against it, because I actually think they need to tie him more to Will with what they're doing going forward than they are. So, you know, you brought Paige back in a very weird way. And I like it more than people in the company do. I'll tell you that now. And this is multiple across different segments. So, in a way, I see a benefit in him coming back and doing the kind of happy baby face. We're showing tiny little signs of not really being completely happy with his
tiny.
Oh, they're not fucking tiny. They're tiny to some people. Like, fucking
Trish,
hell.
watching him in that promo where he's like, I'm having the time of my life. Everything in my life is amazing. I'm not going after the world title anytime soon. I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Like,
people are falling for it. Like, you have to hit them over with a hammer, and he half-dried.
I'm completely medicated. All of this Zoloft is working great. Like, come on. Like, subtle.
But it's like, no, but when he did like this, when he did the Ospreay thing, and he was like, he's too jolly, and he's just like, you know, you could be the best, like, the best you've ever been, or you could die.
Well, then the best part is, like, Ospreay disappears, and Hangman's like, with a giant smile on his face, just waiting for the camera to stop. I was like, he's like, do, everything's amazing. I'm gonna go do the Macarena in Reno, Mexico, la la la. Like, subtle.
Fuck off. Anyway, the thing is, though, right? So I think there's some benefits. You fucking throw me out. I think there's some... It's fine. He's not subtle, but people think he is because they don't get it. So he must be subtle in some ways.
The average wrestling fan is the IQ of a fucking box of hair. So, like, no offense, guys, I love you, but seriously.
Oh my god. Right, but he's playing this kind of carefree character, and I think there's some value in that, because this character has been so driven by either by revenge or by kind of like, or even to struggle with like being a good man to himself. Like,
he's been angsty.
But he's always kept them harsher elements. You know, even when he went through his big babyface run, you know, he wasn't the clean cut babyface. He was a babyface that would do anything. You know, like using the buckshot like Marina Shafir, and reminder of how good she was last summer in that role as well. But it was like, he wasn't like that light-hearted character that they saw at the beginning of AEW, right? So when he's done this kind of rebirth, and he's playing to all these other little detail things that he always does, because he's always thinking about that sort of detail stuff. Everything has to be connected. But it's nice to see that kind of character. I think it's a difference. I think it makes it feel different. And it definitely probably isn't what people expected it to do. You know, there were pictures for him to come back heel. There were pictures for him to come back and be just a vicious son of a bitch and make it, you know, not a massively long thing between the stip kind of being imposed and what they do next. But I like the idea of this, because it's like, he's still a winner. And I think that's the thing. So I get all the complaints about the demands, like losing after a week. I think you can easily see that was them getting it was a setup for the Arena Mexico thing, if you look close enough. And I'm pretty sure, we'll see what changes over this weekend, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be involved around the trios belts in some sort of way come Wembley, right? So I wouldn't like write that completely off as a disaster right now. But it's like, the idea of that is that he's not a loser, right? He's not a guy that's like, oh, I lost my world title and I'm miserable and I'm moping about everything and that sort of thing. He's a winner. Like, you put him with another team and they win things, because he's a guy that, the idea is you present him in that way. Like, he's a guy that can do more, who could be he was a world champion, a former world champion, who could still be a world champion if it wasn't for this dip. And you need to keep that, because the one thing I agree with, I've had plenty of complaints from people about the way he was brought back, the fact that he was brought back on a collision, the fact that he was brought back a second time just wandering out on Dynamite on a show, that in not a very big way. I got a text message Thursday morning straight away that I could have predicted. It just said, I told you so, when I saw the way MJF was brought back, in comparison. Like,
we can talk about that in another couple of minutes.
We will be, yeah. But it's like, I get it, they're right. It's not good enough for someone at that level, and you need to keep him close to the top. Because for me, if you take him too far away and you present him as a mid-card act for too long, people will start buying into that. And then when you do the big impact of what you're going to do, you lose that impact. And then he gets blamed for that, right? So it's a big risk story. From every person that I've spoken to, like, he is still very much confident in what he's doing here. They have less confidence in his presentation, like the presentation of him from a company side, than he does of everything else at the moment. So, and if people have aggregated properly, they would have read that. But it's like, so I don't mind that. Do I think it's a great spot for him to be in trios for Wembley? I think it's a little bit 2023 Kenny Omega, where we're just kind of fitting around different changes and things that have been going on this summer, and it's been very chaotic. And I think the last couple of months has kind of highlighted that on screen, even though some of the wrestling is covering up from that, very much at the top. But you can see some of the chaos with the way things have been put together, very similar to 2023. But it's like, it's not the best spot we can go into, but I think you can get away with it. And I think his story coming up is a real test of how much patience does the modern wrestling fan have. I think you're really going to see how that works out now, because you're doing it in a different way. And I think that's the construct. So a lot of people compare it to Max, right? We can move straight over to Max, because people are comparing it to what Max is doing with the fake world title and saying, oh, it's like they both need the championship, but they're dealing with it different ways, and Hangman's all carefree and happy, and Max is his delusional heel with his fake belt. But Hangman's taking himself away from that, right? He's not in that orbit of the world championship by doing what he's doing with his story at the moment, where Max very much is.
Well, if he stands next to the world, if he has this world title and he talks about the world title, then people believe he's going to be involved in the world title scene, and eventually you manifest it and it comes true, right? It's
we have to be.
Well, the people are asking
belt and not do it.
I, in retrospect, wish that I had done a bingo card for MJF's return, because I do think the promo was a good one, but international audience, giant crowd, white shirt with babyface blood on it. Like, you basically, like, it writes itself, right? Like, there's nothing there that was really particularly new or surprising. I do think that the part of the reason why the promo was good was that it was shorter than his promos usually are, which I think it had to be, given the fact that he's doing an English promo in Mexico. And I'm not saying that, a lot of the people there didn't understand English or whatever, but I do think it limits, right? I mean, it's clear that they limited promo time on that show for a reason. It's fine. Like, I don't know. I think one of the things that I'm enjoying about Hangman coming back is that he is, like you said, doing something different. His character is different. He's behaving differently. He's interacting with the people around him differently. You'd love to see MJF do something along those lines, but I think it's been long enough now that we know he's not going to. And I get that people are like, they're super into him right now. People think he's doing a great job. It's not for me. I haven't seen it the way that others have, but it's fine. I think he could have a good program with Andrade. It's clear that he's going to be in the gauntlet. It's clear that he's probably going to win the gauntlet. He's going to screw Andrade in some way, whatever. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be shocked if he beats Ospreay early for the title, but we'll see how it plays out.
I don't think they're going to do that now, but some funny things about that. So I really don't like the second belt thing. And it's got nothing to do. I think got nothing to do with it being on Max. I don't like it when they do it with anybody. I thought the idea with Punk was fucking stupid. It's the same reasons, right? So when they did it with Punk, at least he had the claim of he never lost it, because it was all out 2022 with whatever happened. But I hate the idea of having a second world champion, because you are undermining the world champion you've got.
Yes.
And you were doing... I didn't particularly like it happening on this show, because they did it on a show where they knew Kenny
wouldn't be there.
No, it's not wouldn't, it's couldn't.
Sorry, I'm correct.
No, it's all right. I'm just doing that deliberately. There's a point to this, right? It should never have been advertised. He couldn't be there, and you're doing it on this show. So that I don't like the feel of that. There's something about that makes me, I just don't like it. But also, you're going to do it, like, he's not going to lose this belt, this fake belt, before Wembley, right? And he's already talking about, I need to go and win another belt. And we'll talk about the stupidity of that in a second. But it's like, okay, so you are going to put a first-time champion, Will Ospreay, whose story coming in has not been universally loved, right? And you're going to have another established world champion running around with a belt. Are you going to have matches for that belt? You know, because when do you do this? When you do the fake world champion thing, and he has no claim to it, so it's completely delusional heel, I get it. But normally when you do this delusional heel, he at least has something based in reality to base this off, and you don't. Because not only did you do the cheating spot, you then did the second cheating spot after the ring where Kenny kicks out a 1. So you can't even claim like that will cost you. You didn't do the injury spot that you originally planned for the match either for months. So it's like you don't have any claim over this. So you can't base anything to reality. So you can say, oh, it's a delusional heel, but then he's not delusional enough to think that it completely is the complete belt because he's going in the gauntlet for a shot at the other belt. Like, that doesn't make any sense logically whatsoever, does it? Because you either have the world championship or you don't. So you either are the right world champion or you're not. You know, like when Shawn Michaels comes back and they do like the ladder match, WrestleMania 10, you know, like same thing. Like he comes back with the belt because he never lost it, sort of thing. It's that sort of thing. That is the way you can do that with a heel. We're not doing that here. He's just got the belt. Okay, great. So we've now got 2 world champions post All In. Like, he's in the gauntlet. Well, of course he's in the gauntlet because he have a singles match and he has it with Andrade. Andrade can't win.
Right.
Because then you're doing a second world title match, aren't you? And he's a national champion as well, so the belt stuff gets really messy. But then if you do the singles match, can he win? Are we going to have a world championship going back and forth? Or is MJF then protected all the way up to when he faces Ospreay for the belt? And you've guaranteed that title program then. And you can look at the other way and say, oh, but it guarantees Will Ospreay title programs. But you've also got another guy walking around with a world championship where you're a first-time world champion who's going to be in better TV spots than you are. That's just asking for trouble for me. I can make narrative sense of it. I can try, well, some narrative. I can't make all narrative sense of it because you wouldn't be going in the casino gauntlet for the other one if you really thought you were the world champion. But I can't look past it that I just think it's dangerous in so many ways. I don't think it helps Will Ospreay. And so many times when we talk about things and people go, oh, you hate this or you hate that. No, we're telling you, does this help or does it doesn't? You know, or does it not? Does it help business or does it not? Does it help this wrestler or does it not? Does it help this story or does it not? That's the key. And I don't think that this will help in the long term because there's so many months now where you're going to have MJF second world champion. And if you blow it off really, really quickly, what's the fucking point in the first place? You know, I don't see a benefit to this. I don't.
The excuse can't be every time he's a heel, right? And I just feel like that that every time it's he's a heel, he's a heel, he's a heel. Okay, how does this make sense for him as a heel? And you just detailed out all the reasons why it doesn't, right? Like, you know, he didn't do this the last couple times he lost the belt. Why is it different now?
Yeah, why did he not do it when it was Derby?
Right.
Just take a round like that. You know, he attacks Andrade to get the ring back, but why didn't he attack Will first?
Right. If
you believe Will's the one that cost you this. Oh, you don't, because you're not in a triple threat. Strange thing about that, I saw it claimed that there was never any push for him to be in the it wasn't any push in the last few weeks before Beach Break for him to be in the Wembley main event. Interesting that it was the same outlet that was pushing that for months and also pushing the idea of him winning the belt straight after Wembley from Will. Yeah, interesting. Just one of those things. But yeah, I just think that long term, I don't see the benefit and I would be very, very careful with this because I don't feel as though they've really got behind Will as in this is our new top guy this year. I don't feel like the way they slotted him, they've done that. No. I don't think the story has done that. I think they maybe done a better job of lining programs up afterwards and freeing up heels for him, but that's about it. And I think this is a big risk then to have a second world champion. As much as you might think that when you get to that big match it will all work out, you can lose a lot in the meantime. And I'd just be really, really careful with that. And it also keeps MJF completely around the main event scene all the way through. And I don't know if that's a great thing for the character either. For his character. You know, you can burn him out. I think, so it's funny when people look at like narratively of what Hangman and MJF are doing. I think you can also look at it from the other side of, are you burning out the audience by what you're doing or are you freeing yourself up for another run? And I guess that's something to kind of keep an eye on. We've got a couple minutes left on our thing. Should we answer a couple of the questions?
I think that's a good idea.
You want to pick them, and I'll you read them better than me.
Well, there's a couple of here that are relevant to each other.
Okay.
Sean O'Brien asked us, a lot has been said about AEW adding redemption to the card solely for the purpose of doing Kenny versus MJF. But to me, surely this pay-per-view exists because of the My AEW mandate for one free AEW pay-per-view per month. Is this being glossed over in the conversation because of the US being the primary market? And do you think there's a risk with the model being committed to 12 pay-per-views per year moving forward? I didn't realize that My AEW has a one pay-per-view a month.
It's built. They have a subscription that includes the pay-per-view, so you get one pay-per-view a month. Yeah.
Does that have to be an AEW pay-per-view?
I think like there's one where it's like Ring of Honor and stuff, but they're just into it. But no, it's built in. Like the idea is like you have a pay-per-view a month in the subscription, obviously.
Okay.
I'm confusing it, but the idea is that you have the tier with the pay-per-views included. So in a monthly price, you have the TV and you have the pay-per-view.
Oh, okay. I see. Yep.
Yeah. So you can have a TV-only tier, but you also have that tier. But here's what I think about this. I think they are I thought for a long time they were moving towards 12 pay-per-views a year. I think that... But do I think this pay-per-view specifically was? Originally, no. So originally, this pay-per-view, by our understanding, I've heard Dave Meltzer say similar in the last couple of months as well, is that this was to originally replace Wrestle Dream in the calendar, and then there was some discussion in the original discussions, and then they decided to make it the 11th pay-per-view. And this pay-per-view exists primarily for the reason for Kenny Omega to win that belt. That was the reason this pay-per-view existed. It was in Montreal. Yeah, it was in Montreal, a place where he had his last match before diverticulitis. That is why it existed. They could have done a switch at Dynasty, they didn't, and therefore we have a redemption. And the big thing for me is when it comes to doing more and more pay-per-views, and I thought Redemption was a real test of this, and people got upset when anyone used the word from us to a post, or anyone else used the word B pay-per-view, but it really was a B pay-per-view, and you're paying the same prices for everything.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do this expanded thing, and they have the roster to do it, you need to ensure that you have the stories that are going to carry enough for your top, because it's your top line that's going to generally generate your pay-per-view buy rate, right? It's all in general. It's your top 3-4 matches at the most. So you need to have the programs that are strong enough to be able to do that on a regular, consistent basis. And also you need to have that value so people continue to pay more and more. Because you're going from, if you look at originally a $200 spend a year to what we at now, like $450, no more than that, Jesus, like $550 a year. Not taking max, right? So it's a big change in expenditure. It's a big increase in what you are expected as a fan who wants to be fully invested in this product to pay for it. So therefore, you have to increase that value. And I think in a majority of the time, they've done a good job of that. Pay-per-view was not considered the strongest part of their offering when you look at the first few years. You have the outtakes on that, like you have got some really strong pay-per-views. But there was lots of very weak ones as well, probably culminating with a feeling around like Revolution 21, right? So you have that element. But I think they've done a really good job of making consistent value. But we have felt there's been a few that haven't felt that way in recent years, but it's very irregular. But Redemption was one where it didn't feel like it had that value, and they changed things to try and add value, like the Bucks and Moxley and Ospreay match was added late to try and increase that feeling for the pay-per-view, because it was felt like there wasn't enough value. And it was a very strange thing because they left so many, healthy people at that show. And you had people like Samoa Joe filming, and you had Takeshita in the G1, but then you had like people like, I don't know, Chris Statlander, former champion, wasn't on the show. Obviously, Darby Allin, Mercedes Moné, Okada, MJF, Hangman, Swerve. Like, there's this run of people that are considered over half of your main event talent that weren't booked on this show. And I think one of the primary kind of attractions for pay-per-views particularly is that you will see all the big people on the show wrestle. And you'll see them in big programs. It feels like one of those things that kind of is like an unwritten rule, right? So that's the difference between, you can get whatever you can get. It's like a mystery vortex what you're going to get on TV, but if you go to pay-per-view, you're going to see everybody that you want to see. And I think that reflects in the live kind of like attendance numbers and how much this slowed down once the card was announced, and it reflects in the pay-per-view buys. And I don't think it's any coincidence that this was the lowest pay-per-view since World's End 2024, 115,125. So I think second lowest of the Max era behind Wrestle Dream last year, and the third lowest was Finn Balor this year. So it's like you have that element where you need these things, and it's difficult with the storytelling. I think they struggle every time they go into a thing of monthly pay-per-views compared to the bigger gaps. And then also, like, you need to be putting everybody on these shows in big positions to be able to do that, because otherwise people start to kind of pick and choose, and you don't want that, because once they start doing that, it's like that loss in loyalty of that kind of everything fan. And then they're the ones that, actually, next time it comes into town, will I go see it? Maybe I won't. Or will I go out and fly to that big show? Maybe I won't. So it's about keeping that loyalty. And, I'm dragging here, but the one thing I was kind of interested with in this particular show is they didn't really own the title change in terms of over promising for this show and under delivering. And even after TSN leaked their like pre-scheduled tweet that showed like the match, like we had all the redemption stuff in their promos, they didn't own it in the way that they did for something like All Out 21, where they owned, like, they had to change the main event late because of changing circumstances, and they wanted to make it up for the fans. Tony spoke about it quite a lot in the press conference after. Whereas in this one, it was kind of like, well, I don't want to really tell you why I moved it to TV, but it worked for TV ratings, and but it wasn't like you tried to make up for it or add extra value. In fact, I think some of his comments around like Strickland, that made things messier because it felt like he was promising people that weren't going to be there. So it's like, I think you've got to be really careful with that. You've got to if you're going to keep extending your pay-per-view calendar, you need to keep that value and not water that down in any way. And that's where I think pay-per-views like this need to be like an exception rather than the norm. And that's not to say there wasn't some great wrestling on that show, because there was, but it didn't feel like it had the value of like a standard AEW pay-per-view.
Right. Do you want to do this next one? Let's do this one at the end. Right said Nick on Blue Sky said, question for the next pod. Reason for bringing MJF Omega forward was primarily to help tickets.
I keep saying Okada.
Yeah. Reasoning for bringing MJF Omega forward was primarily to help ticket sales for All In, longer to sell the main event of Kenny Will or something else. I don't understand the logic of MJF wanting the match earlier. No one does. One day they'll write a book and we'll find out the reason why we had to do this match when we had to do it.
So in terms of like ticket sales, obviously they had a big jump from the time Kenny won the belt to now. So currently they're at this morning we're at 37,122, and you had that combination, right? So you had the combination of they went to the 50% off sale, which is still running now, but obviously doesn't have the same effect because if you want to take advantage of that, you've done it. And you also had the combination of the blue light release, which was released for... They're essentially comps. They're like vet ticks right over here. And blue light... I didn't realise this because I forgot that not everybody has blue lights on top of their ambulances and police cars and things. So all our emergency vehicles in the UK have a blue light on top. So anyone that works in the public sector, whether it be for emergency services or health services or teaching or anything like that, can get... They come out as like heavily discounted tickets, but they're essentially comps. They show as discounted to allow them not to have their own system, so they work through Ticketmaster. And you can get tickets for music events, sports events in the UK. So if you're talking down about that, just shut the fuck up because you're annoying me. It's something that they use in 2024. It's around 2,500 to 3,000 people. It is what it is. No one says a fucking word when it happens in the US, whether it be AEW or WWE. If you want to use that in tribalism stuff, go ahead, but just I don't want to fucking see it. It's just frustrating. It's just that has really annoyed me because it's just like it's a good initiative. Give back to people who often are in some of those industries are very low paid and work really fucking hard. But anyway, that added like an extra 3,000 to their total. So you saw this huge thing, and you're always going to get something when Kenny won the belt and was kind of confirmed as champion because there was no. You're not going to get that so much when Mercedes and Will won the Owens, right? Because Will's been planned into this main event from the start. So all the interest was who he would face. And there was always going to be more jump for Kenny than there would be of MJF because they've seen MJF and Ospreay. We saw it 2 years ago at Wembley. It was the biggest promoted match on the show going into the show. Kenny has never had a singles match at Wembley. The first year he was due originally to face Danielson. Danielson got injured. He was going to wrestle Takeshita, and then he moved around into a trios because of everything that was going on with some politics stuff, and they obviously them signing contracts and wanting the Bucks to go into the match with FTR instead of what they were doing. And then he he helped to rearrange things so that Jay White and Hangman were on the show. And Hangman's kind of doing something similar this year. It's kind of funny how they emulate each other in that way. But it's like, okay, so you did that. And then the next year he was out. And then last year, obviously, we were in Texas. So it's a big deal for that because people want to see that Kenny Omega. That means something here as well. Yeah, there was lots of complaints in that first year when he didn't wrestle the singles match and then he wrestled Takeshita a week later in Chicago. So there is an attraction to that too. So you had all them combination of factors that meant that he helped that match announcement. I think also, when we got to Willow and Mercedes and that promo would have helped as well last week. But it's like, so you had all this combination of factors that happened at one time. So you do that. So you can say, it makes an argument that you could have done that quicker. If they'd done all these things together, will we still see a similar increase? I think we would. If they'd done it in July, because it's slowed now this week, the only big adjustment's been like a map adjustment, but the pace is slowing to between 100 and 250 a day, which is what we expected. You see all these things happen and then it slows back a pace. We saw the same thing happen with SummerSlam. So I don't think it makes any difference whether they do it at Redemption or not. I think there's a choice to talk about whether did it feel stronger being there? Have they made the most of that extra time would be my big thing, though. With knowing that he couldn't be at Grand Slam and have a big defense there. Did they make the right choice for Redemption? In terms of why they moved it forward, Dave Meltzer reported it. It's correct. It was Max's call. Tony agreed to it, and that's what happened. It's not injury related. People are now actually coming out and saying that. We said it for weeks, and it obviously got put in the episode it was, but it's not injury related. So, but that's the decision that was made. Not everybody was happy about it. But we are where we are now, and they have to make the strongest bit of it. And I think, again, it goes back to that thing when we look back at that reign, will it feel long enough? If it was about extra time, you could have done it at Dynasty. I don't believe that line. I think that's complete bollocks. So it is what it is. Like, Tony's talking a lot about kind of numbers on TV and how it impacted that. And it was a very strong number. They got a big viewership number, obviously against no competition. I don't know how to value it. I think it's one of them we'll go back and we'll look at after All In, and we'll probably reassess and look at Kenny's run and look at how that impacted and if it looks stronger or not. Maybe it's something we'll never find out. I think the fact that they didn't support the main event of the Redemption card well enough, or that wasn't really a strong match for Kenny, makes me feel less about that decision right now than maybe I would have. But yeah, that's kind of everything that's behind that at current. It's a weird one, isn't it?
It's a weird one.
It is, but yeah, I'm not sure on it now. At the current time, I kind of probably agree with, I think it may have been better to do it at Redemption, but I think that will depend on how much they make use of these remaining weeks to really build up Will and Kenny, and what the alternative plan was to get Will away from the Death Riders in the meantime. But does it give us that full kind of Kenny babyface run we wanted? Probably not. But will it make for the biggest match at Wembley? I guess that's what they're aiming for. So, but that's not the reason behind it either. So there we are. That's all I want to say on that. If I say any more, I'm just going to get myself in trouble.
All right. Well, I think this was a good show.
Yeah, I think we laughed a lot.
I think we laughed a lot. We had a good time. I enjoyed it. And if you guys enjoy it, that's great. But I had a good time. So I'm the most important person. So just kidding.
You are. And did you know? Just to close, did you know that Tetsuya Naito is the new GHC?
I heard. Champion? I saw his little fist thing. Good for him. Are you excited?
It's like he joined the Shield.
He did his little thing. Good for him.
He was good. He was actually good. And I think he'd probably look at it as, I'm in a title match, I can stick two fingers up to New Japan. He wanted to make me a dad. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that was... I had to get out of there. Come on, he's my guy.
Your boy's still
my boy.
Kicking. He's still out there kicking.
Frankie says I replaced him with. He's in my boy as Suji now.
Yes, Frankie is right. You did do that. I was actually thinking about that the other day as I was driving home from work.
Special little guy rankings.
I literally was like, Tsuji has leapt ahead. He may be ahead of Hangman in her rankings at this point. I don't know. We'll have to see.
No,
yeah, I was thinking about that.
He has that incredible match with Oleg Bolton where he's just like phenomenal like the week. And then today he couldn't salvage Great Okan to do fucking anything. And he just goes straight to the media afterwards. He's always too good sports. And this guy's like, this guy needs to get his shit together. It's just like, extra points for that. Anyway, yeah, this has been episode 67.
67!
I still don't know what the fucking thing is.
67. Sorry. No,
God.
I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. I've done it and I do it again.
Okay. I expect you would. This is what happens when we're unsupervised.
No producer Leah today. She's still amazing.
She is. She still has to. She has to listen to all this.
She doesn't. She has let us run it. We're in charge of the zoo.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
But you can find Leah with the rest of the girls at Ton of Talk on wherever you listen to your podcast every Sunday morning. Or Sunday morning my time. Sunday morning
everybody's time. It's
everybody's time. I don't fucking know.
12 midnight Sunday Eastern Standard Time. 5 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time.
Thank you. I've butchered that. But yeah, every Sunday morning, listen to Tunnel Talk wherever you get your podcasts. You can also listen to all the other great shows on our network wherever you listen to these things. Spotify, Red Circle, you can take your pick. Apple Podcasts, I don't know. Any other podcast providers, and like the BBC now, I have to list all of them. But anyway, yeah, butchered disclose. This is what happens when Leah's not here. Yep. You can also join us in the Social Suplex Discord. Come and speak to everyone. Speak to wrestling fans from around the world, decide your favourite Ninja Turtle, look for scoops that aren't there, I don't know, I can pick whatever you want to do. And you can also contact us via Twitter, at Trish and Sarah. You can contact us on Blue Sky under our own names. You can email us, as some of our questions have come from today, we appreciate them, at trishandsarahpod@gmail.com. You can also, on our website, socialsuplex.com, read the Social Suplex newsletter, get your news straight from the source, no aggregation required, full and in free. Some of the best coverage,
yes,
of anything around the world that you
hard yes.
And while you're there, you can catch up on our last 2 episodes of the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast, our B and C episodes with Frankie on the ground in New Japan watching the G1 from every single town. He's just missing the Goto one. We're just telling it because he hates Goto, but he's going to DDT. And
he didn't go to that show. Oh.
No. God.
You don't have to laugh at that. That was bad.
It was bad. And you can also listen to us talk to Mark from C4 Wrestling ahead of Fighting Back this Friday in Ottawa, their big charity show for the Canadian Cancer Society, that if you can find a way to support, please do, because it's an amazing course. And I think he gave us such a great look into being an independent promoter and how you think about your role within the industry and all the different challenges that are currently faced by independent promoters in 2026. So I think that's enough. I think we've gone insane, so that's enough for today. So until then... Leah's going to kill me. I have been Trish.
I have been Sarah.
And this has been the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast, episode 67. Thank you.
67!
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.